All right, man.
All right,
We are live.
We're here.
All right. So we are fucking rounding up on 10 episodes, and it was important for me to get you on within that first 10. So a lot of the people I've had on so far have been musicians or artists, somebody in the creative field.
Right.
My buddy Anwar was on, and I had Anwar on because Anwar is what I would call in my life a peer motivator.
Right.
I don't look at him as an older brother. He looks at me as kind of a little brother.
Okay.
I don't look at him as an older brother, but he's been a motivator and a reinforcer in my life. Whereas you, Chuck Fowler, have always been, even though we've only known each other for what, 5-6 years?
Yeah, 6 years, I think. Yeah.
You've been kind of almost like a mentor.
Wow.
Like kind of more like an older brother. Here, get this a little closer to you. Yeah.
All right,
Keep it about 2 or 3 fingers from your face.
Got it.
And then just memorize that volume.
Right.
But the reason I wanted to have you on so early is because even though you're not a musician.
No, I couldn't carry tune in a bucket.
I
can't play an instrument either. So.
Even though you're not a musician, you understand how I thought as a musician.
Sure.
Which, and just for people that don't know how we met real quick, Chuck is, I guess the best word would be now, an entrepreneur. Yeah. Originally, you're part owner of a credit card processing. So when you guys swipe your credit cards, and the bank exchange money with that store from your bank to that store, somebody provided that service in that machine, and I always called it collecting nickels. So every time you swipe your card, somebody made a nickel because they provided that service. Chuck would be the guy who made that nickel, that proverbial nickel, so to speak. Okay, now the reason I say you're an entrepreneur now is because while we were working together, you had just diversified. You had started to get into real estate, rental properties. Yep. That parlayed into you owning a construction company. Now you own, is it a holding company as well?
It's, you know,
like where you're.
I put everything under one umbrella. You know, it's just
keep this a little closer to you.
I'm sorry.
You got to get used to keeping it close. It's all good, man.
I'm not a musician.
I'm going to be on your ass. I'm going to be on your ass with it.
I get it.
I'm going to be on your ass with it. You're all good.
So what I did is I put all my holdings under one holding company. You know, and the reason why I did that is it's a lot easier to, as I get into other ventures, I can take that revenue that I'm generating and slide it into something else. I mean, you know, money doesn't do any good just sitting there.
Do you do that for? And I want to get back to what we started off with, but that's interesting to me. Do you do that for like tax reasons?
You know, actually, I think it. Yes. You know, when depending on what your tax status is, and you got to realize that each company has a different tax status. Like you're a S corp, you're an LLC, or a C corp, which follows different rules. But the reason why I did that is that I can pass it through instead of taking that as income. I can pass it through and put that into another venture. And
that when you don't take it as income,
then you're saving income tax.
You're saving income tax, and it's not a shady thing. It's just a way for you to take money and reinvest it without it looking like you're trying to skim money off the top, without the government stepping in and going, hey. So it's almost the same reason, whether it's through a holding company or not. It's kind of the same reason when guys sell their house or they invest in real estate, there's something called capital gains tax. Sure. So the way you avoid capital gains tax is by not taking an actual profit from the sale. So let's keep this simple for people that don't know what we're talking about in detail. Right. If you bought a house for $100,000 and then you turned around magically 5 years later and sold it for $200,000, you made $100,000 in profit, and the government, based on how long you own that house, would step in and ask for a cut of that profit, and that's called capital gains tax.
Right, but if you own that house in an LLC instead of individually, you do what they call a 1031 exchange, where if you're buying, and usually when people sell a house like that scenario, they're buying a bigger home. That's what they do. So it's hard on your personal residence to own that in an LLC or a company. So it's a little different than owning a business, right?
Sure.
But if you roll that into a higher valued home, you don't have to pay those capital gains tax.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah,
That's what I was getting at.
I'm
So
not a
guys
tax
will
attorney.
do this. So guys will take, instead of just taking that $100,000 cash profit,
Right.
the government wants to step in and take a cut of that called capital gains. But there's a workaround, and it's not you screwing the government or fucking the system. If you immediately take that and reinvest it in another property, you don't have to pay that capital gains
right, exactly.
tax.
It's called a 1031 exchange, but you have to do it in a certain you have a certain amount of time that you have to do that in.
You can't just sit on that money for
can't
5
go,
years and be like, hey.
They're going to go, no, hold on.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're not going to float on that cash and gain all that interest over the next 12 months.
Right.
No, you have to roll it into a higher valued property, and then it's you can avoid those gains. And usually when you do something like that,
does it have to be the
up.
total amount into a higher value property, or
It
just
does.
the profits?
No, it has to be a total amount. So if you sold something for $200,000, if you're going to do a 1030, and again, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a tax attorney, I'm just telling you what my experience has been.
Right. Fair. All of this shit should be like reconsulted with your local attorney or tax accountant, because state laws differ as well.
Yeah,
we're in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa. We're in this region.
Right.
If you're in New York or California, where a lot of my friends are, this shit may not apply to you, but the concept is still sound. You just need to consult with a local expert.
But I think,
sorry, continue.
No, I'm just saying that. But if anybody's doing something like that, if they're going, look, I want to make this transaction happen, it's only, in my opinion, it's common sense to go, I need to consult with the people who know. That's why you pay a professional. I don't understand tax law. That's why I pay an accountant. I don't understand tax law, or whatever the IRS, the regulations are. I don't understand that, but that's why you pay people who do.
Sure.
And that's why you bring in an attorney.
I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna pull this down, and I'm gonna do this.
Is that better?
I think that'll be easier for you to keep that closer.
I'm
slowly keep falling away from it.
I'm sorry. Well, I'm kind of short, and I'm trying to see over this arm here.
Well, and I can tell you're trying to like pay attention to me, and I can tell. So you're good.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. I think that's going to work a little bit easier, because now we can like actually look at each other without you having to look around the microphone.
Now I can gaze in your eyes.
Now we can stare deeply. Now we can stare deeply.
You're going to feel a little uncomfortable, but that's all right. I'll get through it.
No. Anyways, so you're talking about the 1031 exchange.
Yeah.
And why we do that. So we're doing that not necessarily to buck the system or any of that kind of weird shit.
Look,
it's just simply a way to not lose a mass amount of your profit. And the government incentivizes you to do this. Why? Because you're putting money back in the system, correct?
Yeah, they don't want you to sit on, they'll tax the revenue, obviously, and they're going to get their piece. But, anytime you make a move financially, you got to talk with people who know. Ask questions. If you don't know, and I think people are afraid to ask questions. They, I don't know, and I'm kind of embarrassed to go to my accountant about this. Why? That's why you pay them. Go to them and ask a question. What do I do in this scenario? And everybody's scenario is different. The tough thing is downgrading, and I see a lot of people, because I own a pretty decent amount of real estate, and I see a lot of especially older folks. And, they had the house with 5 bedrooms, and, they're going, look, we don't need that anymore. We're going to downgrade to a condo. What is the best situation in our scenario? What do I do? Talk to a freaking accountant.
Right.
Talk to them, and they're going to give you the best advice. So,
right.
But
we do this because basically the idea is building wealth instead of just like getting stuck at one thing. And that's where I kind of got into this in the first place. That's the reason I brought this up and why you diversified all those things, because you were making decent money owning one company, but you jumped into a bunch of things. What I mean, I kind of know the answer, but I like to explore the psychology behind this. Why is it, and I shouldn't say I know the answer behind this, I think I know the answer. Why is it you're successful in one business but you feel the need to start multiple businesses?
I think it's a couple different things. I think when you own a business, there comes a point where you go, can I take this any farther? And do I want to do what it takes to take it any farther? And obviously starting something new is new. I mean, new is exciting. You know, it feels good. I'm learning something different. You know, it's the old ad, you know, doing the same thing all the time. I think eventually you do get a little burnout. You go, look, I've had enough of this. And, you know, I was spinning off a fair amount of revenue at First Financial in the credit card business. And it was residual income. I mean, when we'd add a client and they'd process transactions, you know, that's passive income. Because you process with me. It's kind of like your cell phone. When's the last time you talked to the guy who sold you your cell phone?
Right. A long time ago.
Probably 2 years
If
when you
ever.
bought your, if ever, right? Most likely.
I don't
never.
think actually, I don't think I ever talked to that guy ever again. Now that we're being specific
And
in that example, yeah.
That's typically how it works. And you know, so we built a nice portfolio and we built a machine that's scalable. So, you know, we're doing a fair amount of business. You know, and when you build something that's scalable, you have to build it where you can have less day-to-day involvement. So you have to build things around you that you can go, look, I can have less day-to-day involvement and I can pull back and do things that, as we were talking about earlier, we talked about why do people do certain things when it comes professionally, and it's passion. You know, what are you passionate in? And I think I lost a little passion for the credit card deal. I still love it and I still do it. Don't get me wrong, but I love real estate. I love acquiring properties. It's like, and I grew up and I'm a little different.
Is it possible because there's something more physical and tangible and you can see and feel and measure?
You know what? It's so funny you said that, because I was talking to a guy that's new to our team today. And when I was talking to him, and he's got an interest in real estate as well, and he's looking at this, he's joining our team as one of our partners, and he's going, man, I want to do this, and I want to get this revenue coming in. I want to get into real estate, which obviously, as you know, for the last 6-7 years. And I go, man, I'm big into real estate here in the Twin City area. I said, I have a lot of, single family homes. I'm getting into commercial stuff. And I said, the difference is when you build a business like First Financial, you don't really see it. You know, you're housed in a 15,000 square foot office space. You could do probably 100 times the business that we're doing now in the same amount of space.
Right.
So you don't see it. But I said, it's really freaking cool when you drive by and you go, yeah, I own that office building right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are my tenants in there. Or you drive by, you're out with your peeps or your girl or whatever, and you drive by and go, oh yeah, that townhome right there on the corner, I own that one. Oh, you see that house over there, that 2,000 square foot home, I own that one too. It's almost more tangible because you can see it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
it's cool.
And it's also an interesting experience, like being a homeowner now. And I grew up, don't get me wrong, like I grew up in a fucked up scenario until about 16, 17. And then my mom met my current stepdad.
Right.
And he owned this shitty little rental property in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
But I watched him fix it up.
Sure.
They always talked about how much they bought it for originally, and then they fixed it up, and I watched the real estate market go up, and I watched them leverage that property and buy another one next door,
Right.
and then I watched that value of that property go up, and I know what those properties are worth now.
Right.
And it's mind-boggling, the tangible, measurable, and now as a homeowner, I'm seeing it. So I bought my home for, fuck it, I'll say it out loud. I don't give a fuck. I bought a house in the hood. I bought my shit for $90,000.
Right.
Okay. It was not a nice home. It was a foreclosed home.
But it didn't have upper.
Yeah,
right?
and it didn't have plumbing. It didn't have electricity. It didn't have shit. I had to put sweat equity into this motherfucker from day one. However, I have not had an appraisal. I have not had like somebody come in and tell me what my home is now worth since I've made these improvements. However, I see my actual property values going up in just the 3 years we've owned it. And just knowing as is, I've made $30,000 in equity.
Of course.
Owning this house.
Yeah.
Seeing that on paper is just a way different feeling than, say, being a musician and playing in front of 5,000 people. You feel fulfilled, but the next day, those 5,000 people are gone, bro.
Yeah, they're home.
There's nobody there
right.
to continue to tell you you rocked last night, or you rocked last week, or you rocked 5 years ago in fucking Sioux Falls, South Dakota. You see what I'm saying? It goes away.
Right. Well, and I think, and teach his own. Look, I get it. Some people are into it, some people aren't. I tend to get my rocks off by looking at a balance sheet. I like looking at a balance sheet and going, holy shit. I brought the first property I ever bought.
I think it's a lot more interesting to look at your balance sheet when you're making money.
Well, of course. No one
it's
likes looking at it
depressing to look at it when you're losing money. Dude.
No one likes
when you go,
but,
fuck, I'm $10 negative in my checking account.
Shit.
That's a depressing moment. And we've both been there. We've all been there. We've both been there. Literally, Chuck and Jared have both been in that spot. Yeah. We get it, man. You check your fucking bank account. You're sometimes $300 negative because you forgot about that check you wrote to this other thing. We've been there. We get it. But the reason I wanted to bring you on is because you're one of the guys who didn't have anything handed to you, much like me. Much like a guy like Anwar, we had our influences, we had different things come into our lives and inspire us, but no matter what, we had to scrap and we had to earn and we had to sometimes literally fight for everything we possibly had. And taking that kind of motivation and discipline and character, it's not all in your DNA.
Right.
A lot of it is learned behavior. And that's one of the things that I love talking to you about, and why I say that how we started the podcast off. I consider you almost a mentor.
Yeah, thank you.
Because I'm able to call you up with scenarios in the music industry or the podcast as I'm starting this, right? And you understand how the concepts you've experienced, whether it be in credit cards or construction or investing or manage any of this shit.
Right.
And you can give me some life wisdom, some mindfulness concepts that are directly applicable, and you've never fucking not only been on tour, you've never picked up an instrument.
Right. Yeah.
But sometimes you know more about the music industry than guys that have been in the music industry for 20 years.
Dude, listen.
I would ask you how that's possible, but I already know. It's because you basically is what everything boils down to is a lack of fuckery, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I could say that's
you call them excuses. I call it fuckery.
Right.
Like you said earlier, it's about the passion.
Yeah,
right? Like if you want to do this, you're going to do this. Some of us, and this is like why I'm having you guys on so early in my podcast, is because with coronavirus, man, a lot of people didn't lose their jobs. They had them taken from them. Not by some crazy South Park. They took your jobs.
No, I get it. I totally get it.
No, we're talking about motherfuckers. The government came down and said, you know what? You're essential.
Right.
You get to keep your job. But guess what? They shut down every other business surrounding my industry, and my company still had to do mass layoffs, or your company or someone else's company or any industry. It's a cascading effect. So people are desperate. So I got buddies panicking. I don't know what to do. I'm like, you got a lawnmower, bro?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, I have a lawnmower. I'm like, all right, here's what you do. How much money do you have in your bank account right now? And he's like, oh, like $800. I got that last unemployment check. I'm like, so now I want to like bring this concept. We're going to take this concept and we're going to put it into a real world example.
Right.
You know, from experience, how much does it take monetary funds to go down to the city or the state office and file a business in the state of Minnesota?
I think it's $65 to file.
Okay. What's all the other ancillary fees? What's all the other ancillary fees surrounding it? Like all in, you're probably $200, right?
Probably,
if that.
Right.
Okay. You already got a lawnmower. Now you just filed for a legitimate business. Now you're real. You're actually legit. You can go down to the city and they will provide you with a list of vacant lots that need to be mowed.
Right.
And they will pay you $150 to go mow that motherfucking lot.
Right.
Now, if you own your own private little place and you try to go, you're going to have a hard time getting a lawn mowed for $40.
Right.
But the city will give you $150 to do the same fucking job.
Because, one, it's cheaper for them to have you do that at $100 than it is to have a city employee come over and do it. And I get that. But the intrinsic value of that is that you have to have the desire.
That's what I'm getting at, though. And some people don't have the passion. But like we talked earlier with the kids, they have to now. Survival. Exactly. Yeah. And some guys just don't know where to look for the answer, Chuck. That's what I'm getting at, man.
I get that.
So I'm bringing it to this simple example of mowing lawns.
Right.
It is the least glamorous thing you can do. But it is legit. It's real money. And you can do it above board tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of people think shit's beneath them. And when it comes to supplying for your family or making sure your frickin' mortgage payment is paid, you know, there's nothing that should, you know, I'll shovel shit if I have to.
Well, let
I
me
don't
ask you
give a
this.
shit.
How many lawns can you mow in a day? At least 3, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so you're making $300 a day. You're making $1,500 a week?
That's good money.
Are
Mowing
you
lawns.
kidding me?
That's below you?
And no, I'm
Not you.
No,
we're not
right.
talking about
I
Chuck
get
here.
what you're
We're
saying.
talking
No.
about the proverbial you that we're talking about right now.
Right, but that's how people.
Oh, but it's mowing lawns. It's hot out, man.
You know what? I learned a lesson early on.
Oh, but
Okay.
but there's maintenance. I gotta get gas. I gotta get bags. I gotta pay. I
Why?
gotta pay gas. I gotta get the mower to the place. It's like those are excuses. That's
That's an
fuckery.
excuse.
That's fuckery.
Look, excuses are like assholes. Everybody's got one.
Right.
Okay?
That's what I'm saying. This
That's what
is
I'm telling you.
fuckery. This
And,
is fuckery.
you know-
You're trying to fail right now. You're coming up with reasons why you can't.
Right. Of course.
That's the
But
mindset you got to get
that's-
out of first.
But that's everything today. Banks look for reasons why not to do deals with you, and it's refreshing.
Yeah,
when
but
you,
that's a risk.
No, and I understand
analysis
that.
thing. It's a little
I get
different.
that. Look, I'm not coming in and I'm asking to buy $1 million home and I make $30,000 a year. I mean, come on, dude.
Some people do.
I know.
Some people do.
When I bought my last car, I went in there and I was talking to the sales guy and he's like, dude. He's like, some people come in here, they think they're going to buy this car. They make like $12 an hour. And I get that, but we all have to understand our lot in life. And if your ambitions are higher than that, then get on something that can get you what you want, right? I mean, I always figure that and so many things today are based on how much money I make, right? It's like, oh, I want to make more money or I want to do this. And when I'm dealing with people and I say, look, because we have a lot of outside partners that we have in the credit card deal, for an example. And they'll come in and they'll go, God, I want to make $150,000 a year. And I go, well, the first question I always ask them is, well, how much have you made before? And they go, well, the most I've ever made is 60. And I go, well, okay, so one of two things, and most likely a combination of the two, need to happen. Either A, you need to find a different vehicle. You could be a fucking rock star sales guy and you work in an environment that you could tip the scales and you're going to top it out at 60. Okay, wrong vehicle. Got it. Or you need to retool and learn some new shit.
Yep.
And it's typically a combination of both.
Correct.
You know, you got to figure out. And that's where I think we get lost today. And, you know, to your lawn mowing example. If I had to, I'd go mow lawns tomorrow. If I had to do that to make my deal keep going, I do whatever the hell it takes.
Right.
And I think that's kind of a lost thing today. I think a lot of people don't think that way. They go, well, that's beneath me. I actually got to go down to the city and file assume name and I got to make a business out of it. And it's like, well.
Oh, and then I have to pay taxes and double
yeah.
medical
Oh,
and double
God.
FICA.
You know,
Well, here's the thing, fuck boy. Okay, you can go make $15 an hour working for some other asshole,
Right.
or even $20 an hour. Okay, max 8 hours a day because he's not willing to pay you overtime. But guess
Right.
what? You own your own business. $150 a lawn. You do 3 of those a day. That's $450.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where do you earn that? Run the numbers on that.
Exactly.
What does that
that's
break down per
literally,
hour?
Exactly. That's literally over double what you currently make at your $20 an hour job. And
Right.
on top of that, it's still scalable. So you just said you either need to find a new vehicle,
Right.
or you need to learn how to retool your shit. So let's put that. So find a new vehicle. We're putting that example in.
Yeah.
You're making 0 right now. The new vehicle is go mow some fucking lawns, right? With your
bingo.
city. It's a thing. Maybe not if you're in the suburbs.
Yeah, I
That's
get
just
that.
pretty well maintained.
Right.
But we're talking this hypothetical example. Try to stick with the concept and extrapolate this into your world that you live in, because
Right.
these resources are around you. You have to be more resourceful and figure out what you're capable of doing, what tools you have at your disposal, and how you're going to be able to implement them. So if you start mowing lawns and you're like, this is cool, I'm making $450 a day.
Right.
Let's do the math. That's a lot of money in a year, but I want to make 5 times that. Well, guess what? The lawn mowing experience is still retoolable and
Sure.
scalable, because you can do one of two things. You can buy a more efficient lawnmower that allows you to mow faster after
Yeah.
you save up some cash, or guess what? Hire more lawnmowers.
Exactly. 'Cause-
Now you're scaling it, and eventually you're the guy making $200,000 a year and playing golf every day.
Exactly.
It's that simple.
But
It's not easy, and it's a fucking
really?
grind.
You know what?
But it's not
Look.
complicated. People act like this is fucking rocket science,
I know.
Chuck. It blows
I
my
get it.
mind, dude.
Dude, I get it. I see it all the time.
Fucks with me.
But see, you know what? This, and I come from, and we've we've known each other really well. So you know, and you've heard all my stories and where I come from. And it's like my grandfather used to say, he goes, you know what? Life is tough. Do you know how he knew that? Because no one ever survives it.
Right.
All right. Look, and I go, no shit. No one ever survives it. That's a good point. And he said, but life can be great if you don't weaken.
Right.
You know, and that's the issues. You can't look. We all get a bad shake. Everybody's gotten a bad deal. And if you let that keep you down, and I get that some people aren't wired to be, you know, the persevere and get through it. And I get that, but you know, ask questions. There's people who've done it. Figure shit out, dude.
So now you're bridging on the one of the big keys of implementing shit, which is finding, well, first of all, being humble enough to ask for help in general.
Right, yeah.
But then something you touched on earlier when you're like, listen, I'm not an accountant, I'm not an attorney,
Right.
blah, 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 blah. Lean on the experts. That's key.
Yeah,
Is
of
so
course.
if you're doing something bigger than a one-man show
Mm-hmm.
and you don't physically have the man hours to become a tax expert or a fucking legal expert, and
Right.
you hire an expert.
That's
Because
right.
you the no matter what you're doing, unless you're a comedian, if you're a stand-up comedian,
Right.
you're a one-man show, it's all on you, take it or leave it.
Right.
But any other industry out there, you're gonna have a team, even if you're The Weeknd. Okay.
Yeah.
The Weeknd, the artist The Weeknd.
Yeah, I get it.
He's a producer, so he makes his own music.
Right.
He writes his own songs. He records it all himself because he's
Right.
his own engineer. But guess what? He can't do it live. He still has to have a light guy, a sound guy, a tour manager, a booking agent, a regular manager, a publicist. There's still a team of people around him.
And I would imagine he has an accountant and he has a lawyer.
Absolutely.
Look,
And they're experts within their field, because in order for him, and this is going back to what we were saying where we started the podcast,
right.
in order for you to be an expert at what you do, you need to focus on that one thing
That's what you
and let
do.
the other experts handle what they're experts at.
Well, you can't be an expert at how many things can you possibly be an expert at? You know,
Personally, me, none. I'm a jack of all trades,
me
master
too.
of none.
Well, you know, I grew up in Iowa, so slow down in this podcast so I can follow. You know, I'm not too bright, but you know, it's one of the, you know,
Your old farm boy dad
Yeah,
jokes. I
yeah,
love them.
you
I
know,
love them. You're
gotta run
class.
with that shit.
You're full of them. I love it.
You know, but you know, it's one of those deals. And I read a book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. And,
Yeah.
you know, I think we
Great
and I talked
book.
about this before, and we read it back in, you know, a few years ago, and we were talking about it, and it's like, look, to become an expert, truly become an expert at something, you have to invest 10,000 hours
Minimum.
right? So I mean, weigh that out. Okay, so what's an average work year, like 2,000 hours, something like that? I mean, 40
Something
hours
like
a
that.
week.
Yeah, because
Okay.
it's like, I think a month is 176 working hours.
Okay, so run the freaking numbers on that.
10,000.
How can you
It's
possibly-
about 8 years usually being at a job.
Okay, let's say 5 to 8 years. Let's say in that window, right?
Yeah, maybe you're putting in a little OT.
Right, you're putting in OT, putting in extra time, which a lot of people won't do. But
Or
you
you're
look at that-
practicing at home. Because this could be extrapolated. We're talking like a regular job, but this could be you're a musician,
But-
you're a poet.
right, whatever it is. But then you have to look past that. Okay, let's take, and I'm just going to use this as an example. Let's take law. Okay, and they call it practicing law. You know why they call it practicing law and practicing medicine?
Because it's constantly evolving and you're never an
Right,
expert.
and you can never understand all aspects of it, and it's interpretation. Just like you read anything, you know, we read things and we interpret them. You know, I read something on the internet, I interpret it my way. In my ways, based on the last 48 freaking years of life experience that I've had, right? Which might be different than the guy that's 48 years old over here that doesn't have the similar life experience. So when you look at that, and it takes that long to become an expert at it,
Right.
how can you possibly know all the things you want to know? And shouldn't you focus on the things that you're good at? You know, you always hear this in like sports, or, you know, play to your strengths. I mean, to a degree, I get that. I mean, you do that. And if you're in a vehicle that is taking you to a certain point, you can't abandon that vehicle, right? I mean, you might be able to sell that vehicle and come out smelling like roses and make a lot of money, and you can live a certain way, but that's something that you have to weigh out. You have to weigh out and go, look, is this worth the end game? And then what happens after the end game? Do I get into something different, or is that end game big enough that I can take the night flight to Rio and eat bonbons on the beach and stare at girls in thongs or whatever? I don't know. Whatever you want your end game to be, that's what you do. You know?
Hey man, everybody fucks funny to someone. Shit, man,
Yeah,
I fuck
right?
feet.
Oh, God, you have issues.
No, I don't fuck feet. That's a Dave Chappelle
I
joke,
know,
bro.
I know,
I don't
I
fuck
know.
feet. Don't spread that fucking rumor. I don't need that one on the goddamn
Yeah,
internet.
no
No,
shit.
no, shut that shit down right now.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
I'm an ass man. Yeah, I'll admit it right now.
Yeah,
I
well.
eat ass. That's the one you want to run with.
Run with that. I
We
think that's
digress.
good.
Continue
Yeah, I'm
on your
sorry.
deep
Well,
philosophical point.
I don't know how much farther I was going to take that, but it's like, look, I don't want to be an expert in law.
Right.
I don't want to be an expert accountant. I want to do because you know what? I would imagine, and I'm not either one of those, but I don't like that. That's
Well, and
not my
that's-
passion.
And that's what it comes down to is like, so we keep talking about this word passion, but regardless of whether it's your passion, right? Because some guys are doing things out of necessity. They have kids.
Right.
They don't have the luxury of just saying fuck it and exploring their passion.
Right.
They have to slowly build that over time. So they're just trying to justify how to not murder their fucking boss and get through their day, right? So again, they got kids, they got to do what they got to do. So
I saw a movie one time, and I can't, and I'm gonna misquote the movie.
I'm glad you interrupted me because I forgot what the fuck my point was.
That's all right. I didn't mean to interrupt
Thank
you.
God.
I didn't mean to
Thank
interrupt
God
you because I
you
could have gone
did.
a way different direction.
Dude,
but
I had a really good point, and then literally
I
I
fucked it up.
lost it.
I fucked
No,
it up,
I lost it
didn't I?
right before
Okay.
you interrupted.
All right.
I'm so fucking thankful you interrupted
all
me.
right, I'll take. But it brought up something that, and I saw this movie, and I think Deborah Winger was in it, and I can't remember the dude's name, but she was going to some wedding in overseas or whatever, and she didn't have a male partner.
It's a movie?
It's a movie.
Okay.
I think it's called Wedding Date. I don't know for sure, but
Either
it was interesting. But that doesn't matter. And it was interesting because shit went awry. Is you can see they're setting it up. It's a rom-com. All right, I like rom-coms. All right, I don't give a shit. I do
Dude,
like
some
them.
of them are actually great.
They are good. They're good.
Some of them are
right?
great. Let's
So-
just we're willing to, hey, here's our masculine card for a moment. Chuck and I will flip it over.
Right.
I'm a huge fan of The Notebook. Suck it.
I've never seen The Notebook,
You'll like it.
dude. My buddy.
Here's the thing is as alpha as you are, dude, like you're human.
Yeah,
like
I
true
think
you're
so.
a
Yeah,
truly good human and you
I
have a
think,
real heart. Like a lot of masculine dudes don't.
Yeah,
or if they,
want
do,
to be too
they
macho.
or
right?
if they do have the heart, they can't show it.
right.
Dude, I guarantee you'll have a hard time not choking up during the
So
Notebook.
I'll cry during The Notebook.
Here's the thing is like, yes, it is a super cheesy chick flick, but
yeah,
it is
that's
so
all right.
well done and the story
good.
is so well
Yeah.
told. You really get invested in those characters. Plus, dude, as a straight man, you will fall in love with Rachel McAdams. And by the end of that, you're going to be like, so what other movies is she in?
Dude.
Like you'll become a fan of hers because,
Okay,
dude,
I
she's
get
so easy to fall in love
I
with.
get it, dude. I cried.
And for women, everything I just said, replace Rachel McAdams with Ryan Gosling.
got it,
If you're a
Got
chick watching this,
dude. I cry at Tampax commercials.
fuck off, you fuck.
So,
I'm gonna grab a beer. You need a beer?
no, I'm good. I'm good. But and you can still hear me. You're still engaged. What the? I can't remember I think it was Wedding Date. But anyway, because we were talking about having excuses. Thank you. I appreciate that because I'm sure I'll drink it. But we're talking about excuses. Like, oh, I got kids. I got this. And you know what? Again, like I said earlier, excuses are like assholes, man. Everybody's got one.
And some of them are justified, just so we
No,
don't
I get
sound like
that.
those. Just so we don't sound like those guys who are like, no, there is no try.
No,
There's
no,
only
no,
do.
dude,
Fuck
listen.
you. You're a loser. Like no, like some of them are justified.
Bad shit happens to good people. I get that. And you're in a bad spot. I
Yep.
totally get that. And you know
Yep.
what? And we can come back to that. But I don't mind if someone's really down, some bad shit's happened. I'll be the first one to go, look, whatever you need, I'm there to help you.
And we can't change your life tonight, but you can make one step. That's what we're getting at. Is
Exactly.
like just that first step. Just do one thing
Right.
that makes your life a little better tomorrow or brings you closer to your goal. Anyways, back to Wedding Date.
So I'm probably past the point of the movie now, but anyway, it's nonetheless, I think it makes sense. But so this woman, hired this guy to be her date to go to this wedding in Europe, and all this shit went on, and it blew up because it came out that she hired him and whatever the deal was, and she was sitting there with her stepdad on the stoop right after this whole thing blew up in her face. And she was talking about her love life. Like, well, I couldn't find a date for blah, blah, blah because this and that. And the guy says, he goes, look, Everybody has the love life they want. So the reason why you're alone now is because you're choosing to be alone. Okay. So the point is, the reason why you're using your kids as an excuse to not go out and do whatever. Look, I got a kid. Look, I still did what I had to do. But I knew going into it, you know, and you got to have your eyes open when you go into shit, right? Like
Right.
my eyes are open. I got to think through this.
Right.
And a lot of people don't think through stuff. They just go, I just stumble into it and whatever. Some people come out smelling like roses. Some people fall in a heap of shit. But you got to have some foresight here. You got to be in tune to what's going on. You know, if I have a kid and I have responsibilities like that, then maybe I don't go to the casino and blow $500 twice a month.
Right.
You know, come on, be engaged with what's going on.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's where I think a lot of people today, or I don't know, it's probably been that way forever. It's just I'm living in today.
I think that's true. I think it's this has always been a person problem.
Sure.
And there's a million contributing factors to this. Like, yeah, you're just simply in a bad spot. Maybe as a kid you got hit a lot, and not only are you emotionally damaged, but your dad wrapped you up with a bunch of concussions between 8 and 12 and permanently
Right.
fucked your brain chemistry
Right,
up. So like, we get it. Like, I was that kid actually. Like,
Right.
like I had a bunch, not just from my dad smacking me a couple times, not my biological father, but not only did I have like that kind of fucked up situation, but I played a lot of sports.
Yeah.
I was reckless with my body, and so just now studies are like being solidified about CTE and its
Right.
effects and its identifiers, and it goes, oh, I go, holy shit. I was suffering from like borderline manic depression from like 12 to 28.
Yeah.
It took me so long, and it wasn't my discovery that I was suffering from depression. That's not even remotely close. What got me out of that is realizing that and this is one of the things I think I'm really lucky about, is the ability for introspection. Right. So
that's big, though.
Even at 12 to 18 years old, I was already looking at myself and trying to decide, like, who do I want to be? Who am I? And what are the changes I need to make to get there? Right. And so that part was in my DNA. However, I noticed a distinct decline between my cognitive stability at about 23 and when I started drinking and partying. Somewhere between 23 and 25, I started to have a cognitive decline from the concussions combined with the alcohol use. And it started affecting my mood and my behavior. And it took me a few more years before I was willing to look back at that and go, hey, there's not only something out of my control, but there's a whole bunch of shit within my control.
In most people, that's what it is. But, you know, why do you think wisdom comes with age?
You know, I'm not sure. I've always been curious about that, because what is wisdom?
Wisdom is life experiences and paying fucking attention to what's going on along the way and not making the same mistake multiple times. You know, if you go out and get all pissed up drunk and you're constantly getting in a fight with your wife or your girlfriend, your lover, whatever the hell it is, and then you wake up the next day and go, why is my life shitty? Well, your life's shitty, dude, because you're doing the same thing. What's the definition of insanity, right?
Doing the same thing
over and over again,
expecting a different result.
Right. I don't know why she's so mad, because, dude, you get so fucked up.
I was going to ask you, so wisdom's almost the opposite of insanity.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, maybe that's the counterpart.
Life
to insanity.
experience, being able to recognize what's what, and then not repeating the same mistakes over and over again. That's almost the opposite of Einstein's definition of insanity, then.
I would say. But just pay attention.
You know, and that has layers too, man. Like what you just said about, like, okay, I go to the bar every night with my girlfriend or my wife, and we get massive fights every fucking night. Right. And then we go home and we wake up the next day and we're both pissed off at each other.
Right.
But then you go, okay, so maybe it's the alcohol. Maybe it's not. Maybe you look back and you realize, wait a minute, I was fighting with the 3 or 4 or 5 girlfriends I had before this. So maybe it's you. However, also maybe you need to analyze and look at the possible fact that it is you, but it's not you, it's you attract crazy bitches.
But now, and I understand.
So you're
your point
putting
to that.
yourself in spots that don't allow you to grow. Do you see what I'm getting
no,
at now?
you know, totally.
Because I'm sure where you thought I was going with this
Right,
is
no,
a
and
little
I
different
get
where I ended up. Because that's what I did, is I sought out drama. And there's another cliche. Or before we started the podcast, we talked about fucking stereotypes and cliches are there because they're usually based in some sort of reality. Okay,
yeah.
I got another one for you. Misery loves company.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
one of the reasons I love talking to you and I love talking to Anwar and people like you is because you guys are always in what I would call a winner mindset. Like there is no, well, what if, oh, fuck. I mean, you do consider the risks, but
Sure.
there's no, it's none of that. It's, here's the deal. I want to accomplish this goal. What do I got to do to get there?
Right. When you do that, right? And I think this is what most, and I'm to me, you know, I'm success is measurable and it's relative, and you and I talked about that.
But you
earlier.
still have that mindset, Chuck.
But right. I mean, the mindset is this. You have a clear definition of what you want, or a clear objective, let's say. But any moves that you take to get there have to be calculated. You have to take calculated risk, because risk equals reward. You know, you can't get into something and go, man, I'm going to make $1 bazillion, but I'm going to have no risk. You buy a fucking lottery ticket. You have a risk. You're going to pay, Powerball's $2 a ticket.
It's
right?
a low risk.
It's
but
a
it's
low
still
risk,
a risk
with a huge upside potential.
Sometimes that risk is your time.
Your time by getting a ticket, tracking
I want
it
to
down.
start a business, but I don't want to sacrifice, time with my kids.
Right.
That's a risk.
But you know what? The odds of starting a successful business are much higher, in doing that are much higher than winning the lottery.
And you might be able to literally physically buy yourself more time to spend with your kids 5 years from now.
Right.
But the risk to them is so intimidating.
Well,
they can't
everybody's
take that
afraid
first
of risk.
step.
Dude, wouldn't you know, look, I don't know any deal that I've ever done. And I've done a lot of, you know me, I've done a lot of deals in my lifetime. And, you know, they're scalable to what my liabilities I'm willing to take. But I don't know any deal that I've ever done that didn't have some amount of risk involved.
Right.
It always has risk involved. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. And a lot of people can't handle risk. I got a good buddy back home. He's a Catholic school teacher, right? This guy, he plays it by the book, if you will. It's just, it's status quo. But then when we're sitting down, we have a few beers together and we're chilling out and talking, then like the true shit comes out. It's like, man, I wish I could travel here. I wish I could travel here. And I go, well, why don't you? He goes, well, you know, I got kids.
Right.
I got a wife. I've got my job that I have to do. And I'm like, dude, you're exactly where you want to be because you are comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You're comfortable here.
Yep.
So I'm just going to stay there because it's the risk that I'm willing to take. Anything past that, it's like people close down.
Yep.
And having I worked with a guy one time, and I don't know where it came from. I don't know if he coined this or not, but he said, look, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I thought, no shit. You know what? Because even now, if I go write a deal, let's say even my credit card processing company, I'll go meet with a small merchant that's $10,000 a month, you know, and I'm going to write this deal because it's a bank referral that sent it to me and I got to go over and write it.
Keep going.
Sorry, man.
No, you're good.
And
You're good, dude.
And when I go in there, I'm still fucking nervous.
Right.
I've written thousands. I've seen 30,000 deals.
Are you
over time.
truly nervous, or is it more like anxious?
You know, I don't know. Maybe a little of both. You know, I'm nervous.
I only ask this because as a musician, people ask me that question all the time. So do you still get nervous going on stage? And I always have to answer this question honestly. I've never been nervous to go on stage.
Really?
The first time I went on stage, I got anxious. No, I'm sorry. The first time I went on stage, I got nervous.
Right.
For every obvious reason.
Yeah, of course.
Down to the I wasn't sure I was going to be able to remember my lyrics.
See,
to my own songs.
See, you know,
now it's just anxious. I can't stand the waiting.
You're ready to rock.
I want to just do it. Like it's
Yeah.
with it's same thing with the podcast. I know you're coming over at 7:00. We're gonna fire it up. We're gonna have a fucking blast. I'm busy all fucking day. I'm kicking ass. I'm running errands. I'm picking up my aunt from the shop. I'm fucking doing this. I'm doing that. I'm grabbing
Right.
beer for the podcast. And then all of a sudden I get home and it's 5:00 and I got 2 hours to kill.
Right.
And it's the exact opposite of the fun we're gonna have.
Right.
What do
Right.
I do for 2 hours that isn't
To
going
kill
to
time.
mentally or
Drain
physically
you.
drain
Right.
me,
Yeah, of course.
but also not put me to sleep? It's like,
Right.
fuck. I just want to get to the podcast. Like, fuck, man, I wish I could call Chuck and he just, fuck, I'd just be here at 5:30.
Right.
That's what I define as anxiety, is the hurry up. Like, I just want to get it done.
Get to it.
So with that in mind, do you truly still get nervous every time you do a deal?
Maybe maybe I'll subscribe to the anxiousness of it, but I get nervous because I think when something means a lot to you, and you're worried about how is this person perceive me, and you're gonna be a little nervous.
Right.
And and I've never been up. I mean, I've spoken in front of 200-300 people and given talks about different industry things, and I've done that. I can't even imagine. And I see guys that do what you've done and get in front of a room of thousands of people, and I'm singing songs and I'm beating out drums or whatever, and I go, dude, there's no fucking way. That would scare the living bejesus out of me. Mm-hmm. But I can see to a point too where you might go, look, dude, I'm just out here rocking it. I'm doing what I got to do. It's not one-on-one. One-on-one almost makes me more nervous because you're completely vulnerable then. It's like your eye contact with the person I would imagine when you're out playing drums, you might have eye contact with something that looks good in the audience, but you're not eye contact.
Honestly, from that specific instrument, you got one row.
Right. So
you can see however wide and popular your show is, sometimes you're a small club and there's 20 people that stretch the stage and that's all you can see, even though there's 300, but sometimes you're in a 5,000 person arena and there's 200 people across the stage. That's still all you can see is one row. Right. You can't see any deeper.
But aren't you, when you're out there, it's like and I'm not, because I've never done it, so I don't know. So I'm just asking and talking about it. But you're out there, you're playing not necessarily a character, maybe a character. You're playing your part, right? You're playing you. It's like, Gene Simmons and Kiss, when they used to, back in the old days, and they'd get all make-upped up. And
right.
I mean, that's their character. It's like, fuck it. I'm going out here. I'm this character. But when you're one-on-one with someone,
there's some truth to that for certain bands.
Okay. And I get that. I
don't want to interpret.
But I'm just saying, what makes me nervous is that it's the one-on-one. It's sitting there and like nothing's off limits then.
That's more like being a lead singer because you're right up in front of the crowd.
See, that would be.
You're vulnerable. You're up there. People, especially if you're like really confident and you get up there, or cocky for some people, and you get up there right at the front of the stage and a chick reaches up and grabs your inner thigh and strokes your cock and balls. I'm not fucking around. That's happened to me multiple times. You have a choice to make there, especially when your girl is standing 8 feet away and she goes,
"Oh, what?
You motherfucker!" Like, she blames you.
Yeah, why?
And she blames you if you don't grab her hand and throw her away and insult her. It's like, she paid to be here. Yeah, I understand she just groped me.
You can't fucking back away.
And that's the thing, is like, I understand she just groped me. She literally just sexually assaulted me.
Right.
I get that. But here's the other reality. No one else in this audience did. They all paid for my show to be what my show is.
I get that.
I need to ignore this bitch, act
and
like she's not there,
and play my part. Yeah,
in football. In football, the most successful coach of all time, Bill Belichick, says, "Do your job.
Right.
Don't worry about anything you can't control. Do your job." That's exactly how I approached being on stage. My job, especially as a lead singer, as a drummer, it's a lot easier. You're locked behind your drum kit. Right. No one can really fuck with you.
Yeah.
You're kind of hidden a little bit,
Yeah,
like it's so loud and your drums thunder and rock the physical stage. You're more concentrated on like timing the bounce of the stage, so you don't fuck your drum parts up.
I don't even know how you play drums.
As a singer, though, it's exactly what you're describing. Even though it's not one-on-one, you know what it is? It's 1 on 800.
Right.
Or 1 on 8,000.
Right. And that's why they call it the lead guy, right?
Yep.
I mean, you're out there, everybody's looking, dissecting every move. And that's how, and that's why
exactly what I'm getting
when
at.
I do a deal, I get a little nervous, I get a little anxiety going, however you want to phrase it, maybe, Well,
because I got nervous doing deals. When I worked for you, it was in an interesting spot in my life because I was probably 2 years removed from being an actual real musician, like currently out there doing shit. And I think, if I remember correctly, it was still, definitely still before I met my wife.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was trying to figure out if I was done doing music.
Right.
Am I like going to be a businessman? Am I going to be like,
What are you going to do?
am I going to be like one of those rock stars from the 80s on Behind the Music who's now working in banking? Only here's the thing is I'm not on Behind the Music because I never quote unquote made it yet.
Right.
That was a hard thing to reconcile, but basically I just kind of sat down and just said to myself, you know, I gotta just keep plugging, basically, is what I boiled down to. Is, again, just do your job. What can I concentrate on? Reapproach everything I was thinking and doing at that time and go, all right. And to tie it back to something we were talking about earlier, being in sales, doing deals, because I did get nervous one-on-one when I would go out and do these deals. And it was very hard for me to reconcile that, because I would think to myself, dude, you've spoken in public. You've emceed shows where you don't get to be a rock star. So you really just had to be you. Jared, you've done the impossible, which is get 800 to 1,000 people to laugh and like really be with you. You can do this. That's a
talent, man. That's a talent.
But you go one-on-one with a business owner.
It's a whole different
different ball game.
I know.
It's a whole different ball game.
I'm telling you.
I'm like, you know what? We're just going to plug away because we don't know if this is going to be our future, Jared.
Right.
We don't know if this is the future. But again, bringing it back to something we said earlier, there's something about sales where I wasn't ever passionate about sales or selling any of the things I sold. But is what I did do is I identified being in sales makes me able to convince people of shit. Being in sales makes me better at negotiating and doing deals in the business I want to be in. So I took sales and manager roles. I accepted them and took these promotions in the real business world with zero intention on following through in the business world, because I looked at these things as opportunities and tools for me to add things to my toolbox and skill set that I could implement outside of playing guitar and writing songs.
Well, because
does that make sense though?
It makes 100% sense, because that skill set, basically it's communication, right?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Being able to communicate well is when you get people to subscribe to your ideology, that takes very good communication skills. And it's funny, where I learned a great lesson in this, and my marriage didn't end well. It was very expensive.
Most don't. I don't know if you know this, Chuck. 50% of them don't.
Well, I'm on that 50 that don't, so it's good. But you know why divorces are so expensive, right? Because they're worth it. But, so. Anyway, but
that's fucked up. I'm happily married, and I'm laughing way too hard at that joke.
Exactly.
I'm laughing way too hard at that joke.
Kate should not hear this. She should not hear this.
She's gonna.
I know.
And she'll probably laugh harder than I just did, which is why I married her.
I shouldn't say, but you know what? I tell everybody, like, look, that's got to be the final option, man, because that shit, going through that is a nightmare. But anyway, and I remember, like, when I got married,
married. Dude, that's just coming.
Sorry about that.
It's for real though. She'll probably hear that. She'll laugh harder than I did, which is why I married her.
Yeah, that's good. You found the right. Hey, you find the soulmate, your right partner. It's all good. And I remember, it's like, when I got married back in '97, I got married, and I was just starting out in our company. We were like 3 or 4 years old, and I was winning all these awards from all these top sales and all this other shit, and thought I was like, I thought I was a shit, right? I was making, I'm 27 years old and I'm making $200,000 a year. I thought, man, dude, I got it knocked, right? So we had to go to our wedding and at the reception, and all these people show up that, half, how it is. Well, you don't know half the people there, but your parents know everybody. Right. So all these, aunt and uncles show up. And I'm like, fuck, I have no idea who these people are. And they're coming over and they're like, oh, Charlie. That's what everybody calls me, right? Hey, Charlie. And they're going, hey.
I don't know why. Charlie's not a funny name, but knowing you as Chuck,
I know, right?
Imagining people call you Charlie,
dude,
just
weird.
cracks me up, dude.
Weird.
It's so stupid. I'm so stupid. My sense of humor is such a fucking. I'm such a 10-year-old.
Yeah, I know, but Charlie. You know what? Never grow old, man. Never grow old.
Charlie.
So, and I'm sitting there and I'm like talking to these people, and they're going, hey. Now, and these people have been married like 50, 60 freaking years, right?
Mhm.
And they're going, hey, you know, the key to a successful marriage is communication. And
I've
I'm
also
thinking,
gotten that advice.
yeah, and that's solid advice. And I'm going, dude, look, I'm hitting all these numbers. I'm thinking this, right? I'm like, man, I got all this shit figured
Do you know
out.
how many widgets I sell?
Yeah,
bitch?
exactly. Like, if you even knew what no, and I wasn't that arrogant, but I'm thinking, man, I got communicate, and you get fucking married, and you realize you don't know shit about communication. So the fact that you can have a woman that'll laugh at the divorce joke and whatever.
Oh,
I mean,
dude, she's the best, man.
She's
She
good
sees-
people. She's
sees-
a good woman.
She sees fucking. We'll be watching something, and I'll either get distracted. Somebody will text. I'll look at my phone, and all of a sudden I'll hear her go, "Ooh, titties."
Yeah, you got to
I'm like,
appreciate
wait,
a
what?
woman like that.
And she'll be like, "You missed it."
And like, damn
and
it,
then-
can you rewind?
And for real though, and then the other day we're sitting there, the exact same scenario but in reverse. We're watching something, and I go, "Ooh, nice tits," and she goes, "What? I missed the movies?"
That's a keeper.
She's a keeper.
She's
man.
good
She's a
people.
solid.
She's
She's a
nice-
solid
nice
bitch,
woman.
dude.
She's a nice.
My
woman.
wife is a badass bitch. Like
Yeah.
she really is, dude.
Yeah.
She's
good
the
people.
shit, dude. And everybody likes her. And I think everybody likes her because she didn't take no shit from nobody, including my friend. She didn't give a fuck who
She
you
does
are.
not. You know, and it's funny because when we were working together doing deals, and that's I think either right before we started working together or right after you met her. And so it was funny
I
seeing.
met her. Dude. I was working for you for almost a year before I met her.
Maybe it was that, because I remember when that whole thing started, kind of. And it's funny when you watch people in their relationships
Mm-hmm.
and you watch these things transpire. They start unfolding how they're supposed to. And
Actually, no, that's not true. I met her right before we started.
I thought it was right
but-
before.
but we didn't get serious until about a year later.
you're into it. I remember that. And it's been, and you know, you did a good job, man.
And then we got engaged like a year and a half into dating. So
Well, you know,
even
I mean,
after we got serious,
Yeah, but
like it was still another 6 to 9 months before I fucking actually
but you were
popped
older.
the question.
I mean, I think when you get older, you kind of know.
well, dude,
you
and,
know.
and you know, my buddies have asked me about that too, because I waited a long time intentionally.
Right.
You know, yeah, I was a reckless rock star and all that kind of shit, but that's not why I waited. I waited for a number of reasons. Number one, personally, I knew I wasn't ready to settle down.
Well,
I
then
enjoyed
don't do it.
I enjoyed fucking around with too many women
Yeah,
too
well,
much to know.
yeah.
I was like, I just can't. And then once I was ready, it was about finding the right one.
Right.
And like I thought I found the right one a couple times, and then they ended up being fucking not the right one. You
Oh,
know?
sure. Well, that happens.
You know,
I mean, you know, it's funny.
they
when
were they were great girls too, but they just weren't. It wasn't the right fit.
you know, and
We
it's-
didn't have the same exact goals and the same, not only the same goals, but the same way to get to those goals.
Well,
that was the biggest part of it.
You know, I think in relationships, you know, I think everybody's given like this intrinsic core value,
Mhm.
right? They have a way it's kind of like your fucking operating system. You know, are you running, you know, Windows 8 or whatever? I'm not a tech
No,
guy, you
keep
know
going, keep going. I smiled because my buddy Anwar uses this analogy. He's gonna fucking lose his shit right now. So keep
Dude, 'cause
going.
it's spot on, right?
So what are
like,
you doing on your operating system?
Right. What is your operating system?
And
And
are you able to upgrade that operating system?
Can you upgrade it?
Once you discover new data, once new information comes out.
But you have to evolve. I mean, that we talked about wisdom earlier, right?
Yeah.
Wisdom is kind of evolution too, because you're evolving as you're learning shit along the way, and your operating system changes. I've noticed now that, you know, and you know me, I'm fiscally conservative as you can be, but I'm socially very liberal.
Right.
And as you get older, those things do change, because
Mhm.
you're looking at like, holy shit, I'm almost 50. You know,
So for
I don't have
anybody
that
that's-
many years left.
For anybody that's confused, what does that mean to you when you say you're fiscally conservative but you're socially liberal?
You know, I'm fiscally conservative. I believe in, you know, and I think look, I don't believe that, and I want to make sure I say this right. I have a responsibility. All right. I live in a country that is capitalistic, and I've been to probably 28 different countries in my lifetime.
Mhm.
I've seen a lot of poverty where people don't have opportunity. And why do you think foreigners come here and a lot of them flourish? Because they come to a country where there is opportunity,
Right.
where you can be rewarded for your hard work. And yeah, I mean, do things not work out?
And less government intervention.
Less government intervention. You know, so fiscally, I'm conservative that way. I believe that I have a responsibility to, you know, run my businesses. I have a responsibility. You know, I have employees, which you know,
Right.
you know, and I'm responsible to make my way. But socially, hey, dude, whatever floats your boat.
Right.
If you're not hurting someone else, do what you want to do. Hey, if that makes you happy, do I think you should be out smoking meth, even if you're not hurting other people? No, because I think you're hurting yourself. And
Right.
and I don't think you should just, you know, self-destruct either. But we all know the side effects of doing things like that are negative.
Right.
You know, when people do that, then crime increases. And I'm not, again, I'm not, criminologist. I don't know what you call that.
I think that's a word.
No, nor do I play one on TV, but but I think, you know, look, take care of your own. Look, everybody, you know, it's amazing. It just blows me away when I hear like people like, oh man, I'm unemployed. And before COVID's different, all right? That's a pandemic.
Yeah,
no
I mean,
one
jobs
alive
were taken from people.
Right.
They weren't. Nobody
Exactly.
got fired. My boss
Thank
didn't
you.
mismanage her business. You know
Right.
what I mean? She didn't over leverage her. No, the
Right.
government came down and didn't even shut my business down.
Right.
They shut the other businesses
Your
down.
clients down, which
Exactly. So
closes
nobody
you
has
down,
any
right.
fucking money to spend
It's-
at my business. So
it's-
I literally.
It's the
Thank you.
butterfly effect.
Thank you.
You affect
Thank you.
one thing, it's
Yeah.
going to affect 9 other things,
Yeah,
right?
because so many people right now, Chuck, are telling me, go get a fucking job then, dude, if you're unemployed. It's like, dude, that's not a
Where?
real option. I was making really, really good money.
Yeah, right.
So if I show up with that fucking resume at Walmart or Target, they're going to go, dude, you're overqualified. I'm not paying you $12 an
Right,
hour because
but-
as soon as it opens up, I'm losing you. I want the guy
That I know
whose
is gonna
job
be
is
here.
never coming back.
Yeah, I get that.
And even though he did make $20 an hour, he's fucked. He has retail management experience,
Right.
and he's going to work his way back up at this company.
Exactly.
That's where I want to invest my money if I'm that target manager. So I completely think it's reasonable that he's saying that to me.
No, I understand that.
And
But
there's so many people that are so desperate for a job, Chuck. There's a secret part of me that says, you know what, dude? I think I can fucking survive. What if I'm taking a job from a
somebody
dude that
who-
isn't as resourceful as me?
and I understand that thought process. But let's take pre-COVID. Okay? Let's take pre-COVID. And you know,
Or even let's just say post-COVID. Either one.
Okay, either
let's
one. 'Cause I'm
eliminate
assuming-
this fucking COVID thing from
okay,
the argument.
I'm assuming that
I'm with
things
you.
are going to get normal.
I'm with you.
normal
I'm with
again,
you. Let's
whatever it
eliminate COVID from the argument. 'Cause everything's different in a COVID world.
is.
It really is, dude.
In a
Like,
COVID world, right? And when I heard people go, oh man, I'm out of work and I have this and I got this bad stroke of this and this and that, and I'm going, dude, listen, I've got 2 different companies where I have employees. I'm dying for employees and you're bitching because you don't have a job.
mhm.
It's like, no, you have a job by choice. It's that Deborah Winger movie, right? Where she had the sex life she wanted.
Right.
It's like, you don't have a job by choice. And if I had to, I would shovel shit to make sure my kids are fed, you know, or to make sure my bills are met. You know, it's a different mentality. It's just different. And I'm not saying it's right, wrong, or indifferent. That's just how I operate.
Mhm.
I'm just going, look, nothing. I'll go mow lawns. I don't care. If I have to do that to make the thing go, then that's what I'm going to do.
Right.
You know, so you're out of a job, and now's different because we're talking like there's no COVID in the world, right? So it's by choice.
Right.
That's my opinion.
right.
You know, I don't think when it comes to being fiscally conservative, nothing is beneath you.
Right.
You know, I'm sorry I'm boring you.
No.
Okay.
Not at all. You're not boring me.
Okay.
I fucking, dude, I get tired. I fucking, dude, I'm running, dude, that's the hilarious part about this is a couple of my friends have seen the podcast and they're like, dude, that's got to be a ton of fun, man. You're just hanging around having conversations. And it's like, yes, it is. But at the same time, it's like, there's scheduling.
Yeah.
I got to make sure shit's working right. It takes energy to just be present and mindful and have
Of
these
course.
conversations. And like, then there's the tedious little shit of like making sure it's all clean.
You
and
know, and
picked
then
up
I
and,
saw
like,
you do that before we got here.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, okay, and make sure. And you were like, hey, if you have to go to the bathroom,
just go.
which I told you I'm going to
Yeah,
have to do.
Yeah.
Guess what?
All right. All right.
I
You
gotta
to
go,
the
dude.
bathroom? All right, man.
So I'm
Go to the
gonna
bathroom. Yeah.
go.
Go
All right,
ahead.
Hold on.
I'll either talk shit about myself while you're gone.
Or you can talk shit about me. It's easy to do.
That's always my default, is just making fun of myself. Whenever I don't have material, I just start talking shit about myself. No, you're good, dude. Don't sweat it. Maybe I'll play some music for the listeners. No, I won't do that. I won't play any music. That's weird. You know what I should do? You know, if you guys have any ideas as to what we should do during these pee breaks, go ahead and shoot them in the comments. If you guys are enjoying this podcast or another podcast, you know, like it, subscribe, hit the fucking notification bell, share that shit, let other people know. But I've been thinking about an intermission music, you know, the fucking elevator music. So when one of us has to go pee, we just say, hey, everyone, if you have to go pee right now. You don't even have to pause it. You can just go pee, because we're going to play this elevator music and give it like a 2-minute. I'm not going to hum that for 2 minutes, but I think that's a pretty good idea. I think we can pull that off. I just have to figure out how to load up an intermission screen and cue some sort of backing track and tell you all to go pee. I just don't know if that's a great idea to put that on there for fucking 2 whole minutes. I feel like that's kind of cheating. Unfortunately, the common answer is we'll just press pause, go pee, and then start it back up when you guys sit back down. But here's the reality. I can't seem to get those things to work. If we split the podcast in half, my editing program won't fucking save a 3-hour file into one fucking file. So then I'm not splitting my podcast in half. So fuck it. All right, I think that worked. I think I killed an entire minute and a half.
It took me a minute. I peed once for 90 seconds straight. I had a buddy there witness it. He didn't see me actually peeing, but he heard it. So anyway, so I appreciate that you killed a minute.
Do you remember being a little kid? Tell me if this was just me or maybe my generation or my weird group of friends, where when we were children, we thought that the volume of your piss was a correlation to your dick size.
I think every young boy goes through that.
Okay.
Holy shit, this guy must be hung like
you
a
must have
wildebeest.
a hog on him.
Dude,
That guy's
shit.
got a piece on him.
Dude, I think there's probably a certain element of that.
Dude.
I do think. But you know what? I think as you get older, you realize there's no direct correlation to that.
There's so many of those things that I thought just I did. Like the literal talking out loud to yourself.
Yeah,
like,
of course.
I didn't know that other people did that for real. And so I would get embarrassed. Now as an adult, every once in a while, my wife will walk in and be like, who are you talking to? I'll be like, I'm talking to myself. I'm just giving myself a little pep talk. Or I'm prepping for this conversation I'm going to have. You know, I'm trying to fucking negotiate this deal with this dude. And I just want to like hear this out loud and see if I...
Look, dude, there's 7 freaking million people on this planet. Okay,
Billion.
Did I say million?
Million.
I meant billion.
You're way underestimated that one, buddy.
Just a tad
There's
bit.
7 million people in this state.
Touche. There's 7 billion people. Do you even realize the magnitude of that number, right?
It's hard to comprehend 1 billion, let alone 8 billion or 7 billion or whatever it is.
Whatever the number is. So do you honestly believe there's not someone else out there thinking the same shit you're thinking? Or doing the same shit you're doing?
What's that cliche about porn? Like if you can imagine it, somebody's made a porn about it.
I would probably
like literally, like if you can imagine it, and this doesn't mean you can go to fucking Pornhub and search that shit real easy. I'm just saying somebody out there put that shit on film if you thought about it sexually.
You know, I said I wasn't going to do this, but you've had me drink a couple beers, so I got to have a cigarette. So I said I wasn't going to do this.
Smoke them up, Johnny.
All right. Thank you.
What do they say? Smoke them if you got them.
Smoke them if you got them. And that might be true. I'm not a big porn guy, but, you know, I'm sure whatever your little taste is, it's out there. it's available.
Oh, it's all out there.
I'm sure.
That's one of the disturbing things, dude. Like, I don't know how often you go to those sites, but dude, you go to fucking,
not often.
you go to Pornhub or PornTube right now, dude. Like 90% of the shit on there is like stepmom, stepsis, stepdad, stepbrother.
People are quirky. I
Dude,
mean, I get it. We all have our little
It's
quirkiness.
fucking weird, man. I'm just saying, like, it's almost like fucking either everyone secretly wants to fuck their sister or somebody is trying to desensitize us to the idea of fucking our sister. It's fucking weird.
That's
dude.
twisted.
It's fucking weird.
That's twisted.
Like, for real. I obviously I'm married now and I'm still a newlywed, so
Right.
you know, I don't visit those sites very often, but I'm willing to admit I still visit those sites from time to time.
Whatever floats your boat, man. Rock and roll.
There's a few times a month where it's necessary.
A few. Define a few. A few is what? More than 3 and less.
Definitely more than 3, less than 7.
Oh, okay.
Or less than 5, because then it's a handful.
More than
right?
3, less than 5, so 4.
3 to 5 is what
Okay.
I'm getting at.
Oh, okay. I got it.
You know, and I said a month because she's a woman.
Yeah, well.
So anyways, it's disturbing how sometimes you gotta like find something that's not about fucking your sister. Like, it's disturbing. Like you're searching through and you're like, oh, she's cute, and then all of a sudden you see a headline and it's like, I convinced my stepbrother to suck, or my stepsister to suck my dick while our mom was gone. And it's like, what the fuck, dude?
That shows
pass, next, next.
The twistedness.
Dude, it's disgusting, man.
It
It's
is
just, it's a
disgusting.
little much, dude. It's a little too kinky, you know?
Yeah,
it's like,
it's
dude,
too
I'm just trying to find some fucking chick with a sweet ass, you know? Like,
right, but that's
fuck,
how,
dude.
but that's, you know, like, people are getting desensitized to shit. Right.
For real, man.
And it's not like a quick thing that you see. It just happens over time. It's just a little gradual, little bit each time. You know, and it's like, and you see it now with, and I don't even know if Gen X or millennials. I don't even know what's what anymore.
I can't keep it straight.
I can't keep it straight either. But the way people, younger people especially, and I think it's important, regardless of how old you are, to stay somewhat relevant. Right. And that's why I think it's important to have friends that are much older than you and have friends that are much younger than you, because you stay relevant then and you can relate.
That's a really good way of looking at it. I have a hard time with that because people much younger than me I find incredibly irritating.
Well, you know, but let's take Colin. Colin.
He's all right.
He's a good dude.
He's a good kid.
He's a good dude. He's what, 21 years younger than, well, I'm an old man, but he's 21 years younger than me. But the kid can relate to anybody at any level.
I'm not going to name names, but he had a certain buddy who may or may not have worked with us that I couldn't fucking stand, though.
Yeah, well, you're just an angsty young man.
No, like, Colin was cool, and Colin's buddy wasn't cool.
Right.
Colin's buddy was a compulsive fucking liar.
Right. Well, I mean, that happens.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So, yeah, I guess you're right, though. Like Colin's a pretty cool kid. I wouldn't mind hanging out with Colin and
Colin's
just like,
a good dude.
Because my brother is Colin's age.
Wow, I didn't know he was that old.
Dude,
I mean, I
he's
thought he was
fucking
much
19.
younger. Wow.
Colin's only what, 24 tops?
Yeah, I think he's 24, 25.
Yeah, tops. That's the same age.
Yeah, 26, I think.
That's
maybe,
the same
25.
age.
Well,
like,
I'm close enough, I guess.
Like me to a 30-year-old is the same as me to a 40-year-old.
Right.
It's the same age. Now, a 30-year-old's not the same age as a 40-year-old, but when you're only because we basically think about it like this, they would have went to high school together.
Well, it's some age.
Colin would have been a senior. Jackson would have been a freshman. That's how I think about that.
No, and I appreciate that thought.
Same music, same TV shows.
And I think when you reach, I think when you get like, I don't know, late 20s probably, age is no longer really a factor when it comes to the people that you hang around with.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because but it is difficult when, you know, you try to reference things that happened 20 years ago and that person was like 6 and they go, dude, I have no concept. You know, like Colin, for example. I mean, I remember when 9/11 happened. I remember exactly where I was. I was in a meeting and, like, you know, I remember just everything about that. Well, when you're 6, you don't remember shit about it. So there's certainly things that happen in history that you can't reference.
There's a certain mindset with that too, though, man, because like I was born in 84, but I know the geopolitical climate of when I was born.
Right.
Because I had this burning desire to understand what was happening when I was born, because I know what's happening now and shit's crazy. So like, and I hear about this crazy shit in the 60s and this crazy shit in the 40s called
Right.
World War II, and this crazy thing called America being discovered. I'm like, I wonder what happened in the 80s.
Right.
I know about the music because I see the music videos.
Right.
So literally, as soon as I was able to read and gave a fuck about anything happening anywhere,
Right.
I was deeply curious
Yeah,
about
but
what
that's
happened
you.
before. So, dude, it is me.
Not most
It is
people
me.
your age aren't that concerned about that, because I think most people are living in the now.
I even found entertainment, dude. You might even be too young for this, but you might remember this show when I was a little kid. And I'm serious, you might be too young for this.
All right, well, throw it on me. Let me see.
F Troop.
F Troop? Yeah. I do remember that.
Dude,
Yeah.
no one has any idea what the fuck I just
I
said.
do remember that.
F Troop was my hands down favorite show. It was the show about, and I can't even, I was so young and the show was so old, I can't even properly tell you what time period it took place in,
I think
but I
that
think it
was-
was the Civil War era.
You know what? It'd be really fucking cool. Too bad there's not something that exists that you could type
You
questions
son of a
into and
You
it could
son of
fucking
a
tell you
bitch.
what it is.
You son of a bitch.
I don't think it was the Civil War.
I feel like there was Confederates and
Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong.
It
I
could have
definitely
been
be
the
wrong.
Revolutionary War, but it wasn't modern day. They were like, they had old school. Here it is, right here.
Like muskets and shit.
So the show took place. Here's another
In the
thing.
60s, late 60s.
Here's
wasn't it?
another thing. So let me share this screen with people. So yeah, this is another thing. It took place from 65 to 67. Actually, no, it was much longer than that. This is just the theme song from those 2 years.
Right.
But it started black and white and then went color. Let me see if I can play this. I should be able to play this. I hope I don't get demonetized. I'm not monetized yet, but I hope I don't get a flag.
You know, in this show today would not fly.
It'd probably, I bet you if we actually like watched a few clips, it'd be horribly offensive.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This would not fly
They
today.
probably did some fucked up
Yeah,
stereotypes,
exactly.
but it was
Wouldn't
just so
fly today.
silly. And I was into Lucille Ball show.
Oh, yeah.
Not like but also I Love Lucy, Mary Tyler Moore, the Dick
Yeah.
Van Dyke Show. They had this thing when I was a little kid called Nick at Night.
Yeah, of course. Well, I think they still have Nick at Night.
It's definitely not the same as it used to be.
Well,
though.
because you're getting old now. So Nick at Night now is shit that here's
So Nick at
listen,
Night is now playing
shit that was like, because you know how I knew I was getting old.
okay.
Here's how I knew I was getting old, because I would tune in to the oldie station, right? And the oldie station was always shit that my parents listened to. And I was in the car driving the other day, and I think it's 107.8 or whatever the fuck it is, right? So I tuned into it, and it was the oldie station. I'm going, what the fuck? This is music that I listened to when I was in high school. That's when you know. So the Nick at Night, what it's playing now is old to this current generation.
Right. So I was watching black and white television shows and shows that started black and white and went into color, and they're literally watching like probably fucking Fresh Prince.
Which was a great show. Great. I loved that show. I watched that shit religiously.
There's a bunch of those old shows that couldn't fly today, though.
Oh, dude, listen. I mean, it's way too sensitive today. It is way sensitive today.
Dude, there's a bunch of shit out there. I don't
Mhm.
even know if I'm comfortable touching on some of this shit
Well,
because
we won't go down that path.
there's some
but-
classics I don't want to see canceled, and I don't want to fucking the reason my podcast blows up.
Yeah,
is 'cause
no, I get that.
here I can see it now. Underground podcaster Jared Singer
Talking bad
fucking
stuff.
breaks news. Fucking talks about a TV show because you know how Bill Cosby got busted.
Because he was doping young girls, or
No,
what?
he got away with that for like
forever.
ever. No, it was because Hannibal Buress, who was an up and coming comedian, was doing some sort of comedy special, and he made a joke, and he's like, "Oh, fucking blah 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 blah." Yeah, well, you think that's crazy? Bill Cosby rapes people, and everyone laughed. And he goes, "You think I'm joking? Google that shit."
Oh man!
And all of a sudden, people started Googling it, and it went viral. And then a bunch of his victims came forward and were like, "Yeah, we've been trying to say this for years."
Wow.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like,
no, I hear you.
there's shit out there that will get you canceled if someone else just shines a new light on it. I ain't trying to fucking have Nick at Night or wherever these fucking archives of F Troop is get canceled or any of the other
right.
shows I love.
Get it.
I get it. They're horrible. They're fucked up. But that's also part of the humor, is that they didn't understand how fucked up it was.
Right.
So I'm laughing at the fact, like, I can't fucking believe they thought that was okay.
Right.
That's insane for them to say that.
Look, and I don't know if this is appropriate question or not, and I'm probably naive to a lot of shit.
On this podcast, they're all appropriate questions.
Okay, but like, you know, when we watched that little clip of F Troop, and it was, you know, a couple of Native Americans having a conversation about a hot air balloon, right?
Right.
So, you know, and I wonder if back then, if a Native American watched that show, if they were like pissed. You know what I mean?
I bet you there definitely was the same exact percentage of people now pissed that would have been pissed back then. They just didn't have Twitter. They couldn't voice that opinion publicly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when this show was out, I mean, there was no social media. You couldn't be heard.
Right.
You know, so and I'm sure that's probably the case.
I think it really is just that simple. Like, there's only a certain amount of people, a very small percentage. And I'm not good enough to Google these stats fast enough, so I'm not going to even waste time for the listeners pulling them up on screen. But you can try to Google this and find the answer yourself, because it's shocking. So the amount of waves and shit that get started on Twitter, it's almost all of them, right? However, the amount of Americans that are on Twitter, it's a very small percentage. Okay. Now, of the users on Twitter, the people who make the majority of those comments are an even smaller percentage. Of those people who make the majority of the tweets and comments on Twitter, the ones that are outraged and are part of cancel culture is an even smaller. So when we bring that scale down, you can almost bear, it's a sliver. It's a fucking, it's a cunt hair.
Right.
It's a fucking minuscule amount of people that actually are offended. And ironically, the vast majority of these movements are started by white women, Karens we call them now, being either racist or oversensitively anti-racist, and they're the ones that gaslight the cancel culture, right? So, like, one of my favorite comedians out there right now, a guy by the name of Andrew Schultz, few years ago started his own YouTube channel because as a stand-up comedian, he wasn't willing to subdue himself to the PC culture. So he's like, okay, if Netflix isn't going to pay me to do a special, if Comedy Central won't pay me to do a special, fuck it, I'll make my own goddamn special with my own motherfucking money. I'll put that shit direct on YouTube.
Right.
And dude blew up, like got huge. Okay. And then he decided, I'm going to do like a real special and do that. Because I think he started his YouTube thing just putting bits up, 5-10 minute clips.
Right.
Did a little something called crowd special or crowd work. Okay. And basically the concept of the special is he makes an Asian joke and then not only is the whole crowd laughing, but he intentionally turns the camera to show the Asian woman laughing
too. Right.
And then he makes a black joke and he shows the entire table of black dudes in the back of the room joking or laughing.
Right.
And so his intent was methodically calculated. I'm not going to let any more white people get offended on behalf of the Asians or the blacks or the Jews or the Latinos when I make a joke and the Asians, the blacks, or the Latinos are laughing at it.
Like, but that goes back to that stereotype thing that we were talking about. Stereotypes are based on some form of truth.
Right.
That's why they're stereotypes.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, one of my best friends, and I've known this guy I've known him 25 years now. 26 years now. I've known him longer than I haven't known him. He's Asian. He fucking laughs at that shit.
Right.
He's like, dude, that cracks me up. You know, I have no problems telling him a joke that might be construed as off color or whatever. and I'm part Polak, and I love them. You know, like, but I think you just
As a Polak, I could probably drop 100 Polak jokes on you. Is there any chance you get offended by those
not
Polak
one,
jokes?
not one.
You
And
know,
you know what?
You know I'm a Jew. How many times have I called you bummed out and been like, dude, hit me with your best Jew joke right now? I'm bummed out. I need something fucked up.
Because you know
make me laugh.
Because you don't. But here's the
As
deal,
a Jew, I ask you to tell me fucked up Jew jokes.
right? But you don't take yourself too serious.
That's true. That's true. I take what I do very seriously, but I don't take myself very seriously.
That's the key. And I think when you look at your quality of life, this is my view, and people might think I'm fucking crazy or whatever, but it's just that. Don't take yourself too serious. Take what you do serious.
Right.
You know,
because your time is
it's all you got.
Finite.
Yeah.
And fleeting. And you can't get it back. It's one of the only things you can't fix is wasted time.
Well, I read an article one time, Bob Marley, and I love Bob Marley. Like I grew up. That was the music I listened to, and it was one of the artists that I was really into for a long time in my life. And I read an article about him being on his deathbed, and they were interviewing him, and he says, "Look," and he was a wealthy man. I mean, he had a lot of money, and he says, he goes, "I'm at a point in my life where I can buy anything I want, but do you know what I can't buy now is more time." And it's like when I see people get all revved up about all this shit that doesn't matter, it's like, dude, you are wasting your time. And you know what's funny about those people that scream the loudest? What did Gandhi say? He said, "Be the change that you want to see." Mm-hmm. But yet they won't make the change.
Or Bill Belichick, do your job.
Do your job.
Which really means focus on what you can control and affect.
Right. But you want to get all spun out on shit that doesn't matter. Is that how you want to? But, I think some people are born they need a cause.
Right.
They need a cause. That's just, my parents, I was born in 1972. I was born right after Vietnam War.
Right.
So my parents, that was their time. And even my parents will say that, said, and whether that was right, wrong, I wasn't alive then. I don't know. I don't know if it was right, wrong. We should have been there, not been there, whatever the hell. I don't know. But
let me tell you a little thing about Vietnam. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Jared's going to get in this long rant about Vietnam. But they're like, look, people just needed a fucking cause. And it's like, I guess if you need a cause and that's how you want to spend your life, to me, that seems stressful. Shouldn't life be... life is stressful enough just doing all the adulting shit you have to do. Why make it more stressful?
I think is where it gets fucked in complicated situations like that is you go, well, I personally directly can't control whether we're even in Vietnam or go to Vietnam because I wasn't given a vote. So people who think their tax dollars are being wasted, right? Because they're fiscally conservative, or people who are on the left who thought it was an ethical violation.
Sure.
They think the only way they can do that is to get involved with those movements. And another big thing that a lot of us aren't willing to talk about is the euphoria we get from being in mass congregation.
Sure.
So we know that there's dopamine and serotonin releases in people's brains when they get to a rock concert or a church or a riot, right? Mm-hmm. Or a protest or a movement. Like, people get caught up in these things and they find fulfillment in being part of something larger than them, which is honestly why a lot of people like fucking sports, dude.
Sure.
They like fucking sports because they're sharing something, a movement, when your team has a great season, and that's what people are talking about, and everybody's focused on fucking, I'm fucking wearing my purple today.
It's the common good. It's
or at least the common goal.
Common goal. Let's say that.
Yeah.
It's a common goal.
And it's disturbing because that ties directly back into the negative version of the same thing, which is where we kind of started with this, which is like, unfortunately, we kind of call it the loser mentality, right? A lot of people were I brought up earlier, you, Anwar, guys like me, we have what I call a winner mentality. Okay, and then there's what's called, and this sounds calloused, hear me out, guys. There's something called a loser mentality. The loser mentality is when we were on sports teams, We called it defeatist attitude.
Right.
You're finding reasons to beat
lose.
yourself.
Mhm.
You hear this in pro sports nowadays. They didn't beat us. We beat ourselves. We defeated ourselves before we walked into that game. We personally, individually do this in life on a regular basis. Okay, so is what you find is that, going back to the cliche, misery loves company.
Right.
A lot of us who are losers, right, or were losers, find comfort and solace in sharing war stories and victimhood with other losers. And then when you start to make that turn and you start to take who is it, Nelson Mandela, I believe he's the one that said, I am the master of my own fate.
Right.
That is one of the most empowering things I ever heard in my life, because it's true. And it doesn't really matter where you're at. It's just a lot easier to do in America because we have all these freedoms. But at the end of the day, when you take your fate into your own hands and you turn that corner and you start developing a winner mindset, you will find yourself wanting to hang out with other winners, because it's positive reinforcement. You're no longer complaining about the problems you're having. You're in conversations where you're exchanging ideas on how to overcome those problems.
Right. Or you're talking about, you're sharing successes,
which are also motivating.
Right. And it's that old adage, and what I was taught growing up is birds of a feather flock together.
It's the same. There's another cliche that's literally the same statement.
It's the same deal.
That's a like a positive negative version of misery loves company.
Right.
That's the negative side, right?
Right.
Birds of a feather is all people, find people like them.
Well, right. And when you look at that, is you go, look, like-minded people will find each other. There's, when you talk about a tribe, right? And if you ever get a chance, if you've never read the book, it's called Sapiens. And it talks about mankind from the early existence. And need this lighter?
Yeah.
All right. And what it talks about in there is, and I'm gonna fuck it up, okay,
dude, go
but
ahead.
I'm just gonna tell you, when I read it, here's what I got out of it. Okay, is that it traced mankind from inception, and what the data was in the book was that man started in Africa, and then he worked his way up into Asia, and he's worked his way up into Europe, and at first, I mean, man was primitive. They're Neanderthals, and everybody thinks the Neanderthal was like this huge, massive guy that could go out and kill all these woolly mammoths and do this.
No, they were short and stocky.
And
closer to a chimp.
Right. And they
muscle density, bone mass, they were short, compact.
But they lived on small game because they didn't have the thought process to go out and figure out, how does one guy go kill a woolly mammoth?
I was just talking about with Kevin the other night. This is what I believe too, and this is what a lot of scientists believe, is that sapiens won through intelligence, creativity, and resourcefulness. Not everyone agrees to this theory, but I want you to keep going. I just wanted you to know there's a lot of the science community that doesn't subscribe
read this
to this
book. It's called Sapiens.
Well, I mean, I already agree with it. So
no, but I thought it was interesting because it gets deeper.
Maybe the listener should read this book because
if you ever get a chance, and
maybe
I can't remember,
they're not settled on this subject.
Obviously, with Google it, you can see what it is, and I can't remember the author, but it was written. It was written by this guy, and it was written like, it was really super interesting to read. It wasn't like a textbook, right?
Right.
So, and what he talked about is like, okay, so Neanderthal was, living on small rodents, and then as man evolved, and then he called it the cognitive revolution. When the cognitive revolution happened, then men started working together. Where Neanderthal was kind of like a nomad, right? He had to do what he had to do, and
is this the book right here?
And I can't see it.
Sapiens: A Brief History of Human.
Yeah, that's it.
I'll click on it and find the cover, and then if it's the right one, we'll share.
That's the one.
This
right
is
there,
it, right here,
right there. Yeah,
okay, so this is the book. Just for the listeners, this is the book Chuck's talking about: Sapiens: Brief History of Humankind.
Fucking
Yuval Noah Harari.
Great read. This guy's I would love to sit down with this. I mean, I would probably bore the shit out of him because he's so smart. You know what I mean? It's one of those deals. But And what
I do that with every single one of my guests.
I'm not bored. But what he talks about in there is that, Neanderthal's like a nomad. He just does his thing, and just lives what he needs to survive. And then the cognitive revolution happened where people could start working together. Like, hey, you know what? You and I can go after a common goal.
Right.
Our common goal is survival, right? Back then, obviously. And what he found and what he kind of described in the book is if we're being led by a common goal, you can lead approximately like 100, 150 people just by a common goal. So then what he talks about, religion was introduced. And when you introduce an ideology of that scale, you can lead millions of people. You could lead billions of people.
Interesting.
Because then it's based on something else besides survival. It's based on an ideology.
Have you heard of this theory?
What is this?
So you said the cognitive revolution from the Sapiens book,
right?
Which immediately made my memory trigger of this, which is Terence McKenna had a theory. He believed that psilocybin mushrooms were the evolutionary catalyst from which language, projective imagination, the arts, religion, philosophy, science, and all of the human culture sprang. McKenna's hypothesis concerning the influence of psilocybin mushrooms on human evolution is known as the stoned ape theory. The reason I bring this up is because this theory has been used to try to attempt to explain what changed us from that Neanderthal type to the Homo sapien, and to bring it into direct context is because now we're doing enough studies where we know with provable data through modern science that through taking psilocybin mushrooms makes you, not only do your senses get heightened, so not only do you have the literal ability to see more clearly, okay, so when I got married, we did some mushrooms a few years ago in Jamaica, and I noticed that I was looking at the horizon, and I had basically, on the ocean horizon, I had basically figured out about how far I could see clearly. And then when I was on mushrooms, I noticed that there was a ship at approximately that exact same distance as all the other ships throughout the week, and I could suddenly read the letters on the side of the ship. Okay. Now, granted, it could have been 100 yards closer, but it was still a noticeable change. A lot of people, when they trip mushrooms, they think, oh, I can hear everyone whispering, it must be paranoia. No, you can actually hear more sound. It actually makes you better at your senses. However, they also know it also makes you a more compassionate leader.
Interesting.
And then we all know, through whether it's personal experience on mushrooms or TV shows, it expands your mind and your imagination. We know about all the music that was inspired. So the theory is that they flipped these mushrooms, they started activating parts of their brain that maybe possibly the Neanderthal didn't, and that's what sparked that difference. And then whatever it is, 100,000 years later, we had the ability to be smarter, more creative, work together because we were more compassionate with each other. You see what I'm saying?
No, I
These
get
two
that,
theories almost go hand in hand, is what I'm getting at.
And I totally get that. But
I find that fascinating.
And look, and I didn't come into this going, hey, I've done this extensive research and I know all this factual
but
shit.
You read a book, you think it's fascinating, and
exactly.
it makes fucking sense. That's the important part. It makes sense.
But what I'm saying, to lead to your point, like in the 60s, was it the 60s? I don't know if it's the 60s. But when they talk about like PCP and all these like hallucinogens that come, our government did extensive testing on all that shit. And if you read those files, and granted, like I said, I didn't do a bunch of research before I got here because who knows what we're going to talk about tonight, right? But it shows that you unlock places in your brain that I think we get so clouded with day-to-day shit that we cannot unlock. So it unlocks and it makes you think about different things that you couldn't see before.
And they also have shown that through like specifically psilocybin. So I don't know if this is true if you're taking acid or some of these other mind-altering hallucinogens, but I know this is true with psilocybin mushrooms, that they've proven, think of, okay, So think of, we're going to try to describe your thought process in physical form.
Right.
These are called your neurological pathways.
Right.
Which is how we also describe the wiring of how your brain works,
Right.
how you think, how you problem solve, how you react. Okay?
Right.
Think of those neural pathways like paths in snow down a mountain.
Right.
You've gone skiing. A lot of us have gone skiing. If you haven't gone skiing, you can still imagine this in your head. I go skiing, you go skiing, but you take the same path every time. You carve these paths into your brain. That is the snow in this analogy. And that is your neural pathway. Right. So every time you go down that path, you follow the same path.
That's track.
Right, exactly. When you do enough psilocybin mushrooms, or you do a low enough amount often enough, think of it as if a fresh powder coat of snow came up and covered up those tracks. And now your brain, your mind, has the ability to carve a new path down the same side of that mountain. That is literally what I am saying when I'm describing the idea of taking psilocybin mushrooms has shown scientifically you have the ability to rewire your neurological pathways. Guys have cured stutters. They know that certain hallucinogens in the right doses can help cure addiction, from cigarettes to heroin.
Really?
Dude, one of them, it's not ayahuasca. It's another one. I'm going to forget. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, they're going to fucking be screaming at the screen right now. But there's this one, I think it's called ibogaine. And it is the most intense physical and mental introspection. And all the data shows that this is the most effective way for anybody to beat any addiction, both physically and mentally.
Shit.
Yeah, and it's all because of the same thing I just mentioned, because of what it physically does to your fucking brain chemistry, man.
Right.
So think about what we know now as a regular human and what psilocybin can do. Think about what you just said to that Sapiens book, and then this crazy fucking hippie's idea.
Right.
It all makes sense. Because, again, the Neanderthal brain starts taking mushrooms, has the ability to rewire neurological pathways that other Neanderthals don't. Over hundreds of thousands of years, they evolve into Homo sapiens, and now it's naturally in our brain development to activate those parts of our brain. This is not insane to suggest this.
You know,
I love this idea because it makes fucking sense.
It does. I mean, and that's what theories are. You know, theories have some things that have some compelling evidence that can show that. Obviously, we can determine what a Neanderthal ate or early Homo sapiens ate. We can determine that to a bit just because of development. And we know enough today about, diet. Your body develops a certain way.
Yeah, and there's certain taxonomy, things like jaw structure, teeth type.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so we can determine those things. And, I think that's a very cool theory. Although I've never done mushrooms. I've never done that
Not
before.
once? Never? Not even in your crazy college days?
No.
Dude, it's like the coolest fucking thing ever, man.
No. I tripped on acid once.
Dude, they're about to become legal. I'm just letting you know.
Mushrooms?
Yep. Yep. They're about to become legal. They'll probably become legal before weed becomes legal. I'll tell you that much. I swear to God, dude.
I don't know about that.
Dude, they're in their third study of FDA testing right now for medical.
And I'm not going to lie.
Federally.
I'm not going to lie. I'd love to try them. Just one time. Just to see what it'd be like.
No, you can't do them just one time. You got to do a small amount your first time so you kind of know what you're getting into. Because you do a low dose, it's a lot like being drunk. Okay. Your legs get a little rubbery. You're really giggly. Everything's stupidly funny. Things move a little bit. Not crazy. We're not talking about acid or some wild shit where like you see shit coming out of the walls.
Right.
But then as you kind of know what you're getting into, you find a safe place with people you love and trust.
Right.
And then you do a bunch of them. And then what happens is you'll naturally want to just lay there and close your eyes. And there is a huge body high. It's like smoking a bunch of weed and being really drunk on tequila. But your mind, the things you're able to expand on. The last time I did mushrooms, dude, I remember sitting there having the same conversation with myself I had when I was 8 years old. Do I want to be the cool guy who's tough, or do I want to be the silly, funny guy? I could never answer that question at 8. Somewhere in my 20s, I decided I don't have to choose. Dude, it wasn't that long ago I did mushrooms and that same fucking conversation came up. And this time, with authority, I said, I choose to be silly.
Wow.
I know I can be the cool, serious guy who can fight. That's been validated. I don't need to be that anymore. I now choose to be silly.
No, okay, let me ask you this.
That conversation never would have happened sober. In an 8-year-old sober mind it happened, but it took me at 31, whatever the fuck it was.
Do you think that part of that was because you had 20 more years of life?
Well, yes, but most of it was this drug allowing my mind to go that deep into my thought without being distracted by a bird. It got incorporated, right?
I get
it. Like you're not thinking about, oh fuck, man, that cable bill's due on Tuesday. Did I leave the coffee? All of these worldly fucking things, it goes completely 100% inward, and you start thinking about, like, it's really hard to put into words, man. And I would never advise a first time user to do any large amount. Like the first time you ever did any, you would do like the most I would let you do, even with your, like, you're a big dude. You're a ripped, jacked motherfucker. Your metabolism is probably through the roof. You ain't no fucking pussy lightweight. Guess what? You're still only doing a half-eighth. At most, a half-eighth. And you're going to fucking giggle your ass off. I will, like, look at you and go, and, like, I don't think the people can see it. I'll flick my eyebrows up once, dude, and you will giggle for a half hour.
No shit.
Because of the facial expression I made. And it just triggered this euphoria. It's the silliest shit ever, dude. Like, everything is stupid funny. And then the next time you do a little bit more. Right now, at 35, 36 years old, as somebody who's done a lot of mushrooms in my life, I will do a quarter, which for you would probably pass out and wake up and not remember any of it.
Totally kill it. So let me ask you this, because you obviously have much more experience in this arena than I do, right?
I would hope so.
Yeah,
being a musician.
Yeah, right.
It's on my resume,
right?
But I've never done like heroin or crack or anything.
Well, I'd hope
like that.
Not. I mean,
none of the really hard shit.
That's a whole nother league.
It's just not my bag.
Here's something that I've been interested in for a long time, and interested not enough that I haven't done all the research and shit on it yet, but peyote. I've always had this desire to try peyote, and I probably don't even know what the fuck peyote is, but I've always, and you see movies, and you see all this shit where, like the Doors went out and they got on this big peyote trip and this and that. So I thought, man, because that introspective piece in opening that piece up, when you're not thinking about all the adulting in life that you have to do.
Adulting. Yeah. I know what you mean.
You know what I mean, though. I
hate that word, but I know what you mean.
I won't say it again. All those real world shit, like, I got to meet fucking payroll. I got this shit going on. I got that shit going on. I got this shit going on. And the kids got to do this, and I got to do this, and I got to pay tuition. I don't want to think about that shit, but I want to think, like, I want to get, like, is there something inside my brain that I'm not realizing yet?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's exactly
does that make sense, though?
Yes, 100%. And that's exactly what peyote will show you. That's exactly what fucking ayahuasca, DMT, mushrooms, they all give you the same experience. They're slightly different chemicals. They have slightly different potencies and volatilities. So, like, the one thing that's cool about mushrooms is you can ingest them pretty much any way. Peyote, I've never personally done peyote, but I know I can't even count how many people. Almost everyone else I know who's done mushrooms has also done peyote. And from what I understand, peyote is just more potent, so you need to take less of it to get of almost exactly same experience.
Do you even know? I don't even know. And I couldn't spell it, so I can't Google it.
I think it's P-E-Y-O-T-E.
What? Is that come from a cactus?
I think it's some sort of. I don't think it's fungus. Hold on, let me just look it up because I don't want to eat my own fucking ass on this thing. So peyote.
There we go.
Small spineless cactus.
Oh, it is from a cactus.
With psychoactive alkaloids. It is different than mushrooms, but from what I've heard is that if you take enough mushrooms, you can get to
the same level,
almost the same thing. And it's not about levels. It's a lot of these drugs are about the type of trip. So from my understanding, let's just make these
Right.
units equal. Like you're going to do 1 peyote, which is equal to, I don't know, a quarter ounce of mushrooms,
Right.
whatever. You're still going to have like, man, I hope my friends weren't bullshitting me because I'm about to say this shit forever. Right. But basically, my understanding is the peyote will be more spiritual and more like you're looking at the earthbound transition between humans and where we came from, like literally like from the earth. Mushrooms can get just completely metaphysical, where you start understanding the correlation in how everything's connected.
Right.
Like mushroom trippers, that is the most infamous thing, and like we'll make fun of new trippers. So like I do mushrooms like once every 5 years.
Right.
Okay, I don't do them very often.
Right.
I should probably do them once a year because of the health benefits from them, like legitimate health benefits.
I don't know what the health benefits are.
Some of the stuff we talked about earlier, it's the mental stuff. Like honestly, dude, it's one of the main things that got me out of
housekeeping kind of things.
Yeah, and honestly, dude, like it is definitely responsible for helping me not only fight but get a handle on my CTE,
right?
Which also helped me get a handle on the resulting depression. There's like it's mostly mental health.
I'm buying into it.
It's mostly mental health,
right?
But when you do mushrooms, you'll it's the number one thing. Like I said, we make fun of new trippers because we'll have them hang out every once in a while, and like they all of a sudden they'll be like, "No, man, like you don't get it, dude. Like it's all connected." And
like,
we're giggling.
I've been there, dude.
Yeah,
I get it.
We get it. Like it's all connected because it really is. Like you do mushrooms and you start realizing all those crazy things they told you when you were in school, like we're all made of the same stuff. When you're on mushrooms, not only can you look at a human being and be like, "Oh my God, dude, you're the same as me," but you actually physically feel the like harmonic vibration. And you go, "Oh my God, dude, I've had it all wrong this whole time."
No shit.
None of us are enemies. None of us are. But then you sober up and you realize the reason we have enemies is because everyone's not on mushrooms once a year. If everyone did mushrooms once a year, we would end all war. Like it would be that easy.
That's
because
a bold statement.
No one does mushrooms and comes off of it and being like, "Nope, it's all bullshit. We need to kill people." It's never fucking happened. Everyone comes off of mushrooms and goes, "Dude, like, I want to definitely be nicer and kinder." And here's the crazy thing is you may not need mushrooms, Chuck. Knowing you as well as I know you, you're already on that level. You're already pretty enlightened. You're already a very kind, giving, outgoing human being. However, I guarantee you would still take something for it. You may not need mushrooms,
right?
But you would still take them and be like, "Dude, that was fucking something else." Like
validation, if nothing else.
Like, and you might decide, "I want to do this once a year, once every 5 years, once every 10 years," but you're like, "Nope, there's benefit in doing this." And for me, it's a reminder because it's almost like you forget over time. And so we can quickly just grace on like DMT and ayahuasca. They're the same thing basically, but DMT, people talk about going to another universe and communicating with other beings. I know people that fucking did DMT, quit heroin, and I was like, "How?" And he goes, "I did DMT and I literally saw the face of God. And I came out of that DMT trip and I was done doing heroin, and I've spent 7 years clean." Just like that.
Wow.
Guys talk about that with the ibogaine, with the ayahuasca. Like you use these things in different therapy. And here's to bring it back so we don't go too far down just a psychological rabbit hole. Here's what I find interesting to bring it back into the real world.
Yeah.
This is shit hippies have been telling us for hundreds of years.
Right.
And science is just now catching up and going, "Yeah, those fucking crazy hippies were all along."
They may have known some shit.
They were fucking right, dude. Right. I just seen a study today. I don't think it's true. I don't know if it's true, but I also won't be surprised if it's true.
Right.
Marijuana use, smoking marijuana, may have a direct correlation to preventing you catching coronavirus. And I was like,
I'm in. Dude, you'll never get corona.
Legalize it.
You'll never get corona. See, that's the thing. It's like
I don't know if that's true. They said that about nicotine a month or two
I'd
ago.
heard that too, and
Which also still might be true. They never disproved it.
dude,
they just stopped
look,
talking about it.
If we go down this, I don't want to go down the Corona rabbit hole
Me
because
neither.
you know what? No one knows shit about that.
It's so confusing.
You know,
And
now you got to wear. They're telling you got to wear fucking goggles.
I saw
hear
that.
that?
I saw
I go,
that.
dude,
Well, they
I'm
didn't say
not
you
wearing-
got it. They said if you have them, it's not a bad idea.
dude, I'm not wearing fucking goggles.
I ain't wearing no fucking goggles, bro.
That ain't happening. All right. You know, and see, I'm not a big fan of smoking weed, right? I mean, I'll do it, you know, we're hanging out or whatever, and I'm cool with that. But I love edibles.
I've been
Edibles,
hearing this so
dude,
often.
I'm telling you, man, it's a whole different experience.
I've done edibles, but I can't, like, doing recreational drugs, right? Like, so we're going to smoke a little weed.
Right.
We're going to have an edible. I want to also sip on a little beer.
Well, why not? You can sip on beer and you have an edible.
I can't.
Why not?
Dude, I ate an edible and drank a beer, and I fucking couldn't walk.
Really?
I literally had to, like, milk myself off the couch. That's the way I describe it. Milk, like,
Yeah, I
drip
get what- I
myself off
understand
the
what
couch.
you're saying. Yeah,
and
for
then
sure.
and then crawl. I was drooling. I was drooling like I had taken fucking what's that Wolf of Wall Street movie? What's the drug they did?
Lemon. The fuck were those?
Quaaludes. Quaaludes. They did.
Yeah, Quaaludes. Yeah.
Dude, that scene of fucking
Yeah, when he
Leonardo
drives it-
DiCaprio driving or crawling across the floor
great
drooling.
movie. Great movie.
That was me on edibles and one beer.
Really?
Yeah,
See,
I
I'm
had.
not-
I
I'm just the
dude, I
opposite.
literally crawled myself through my apartment at the time, dragging myself. Couldn't even use my legs. Dragging myself, army crawling, like manning up, like digging
Oh,
deep.
dude, no way.
Like literally, like psychologically, I was so physically, magnetically pulled to the ground,
because it's a body high.
dude.
It's
it paralyzed me.
relaxing.
I
It's
fucking
relaxing.
slowly got like a handicapped guy falling out of his fucking wheelchair, crawled into the fucking
Oh,
bed
hilarious.
and rolled over and just passed out
Yeah.
because I was
Well-
I lost all motor functions
Because you
dude.
had too much. It's
no,
like
no, I had done those
listen.
edibles before, but I finally was like, yeah, dude, this is great. I'm gonna fucking have a beer, and then I drank that fucking
And you
beer,
were
and
out. You
that
were
chemical reaction was like,
you're done.
no edibles plus beer. It's edibles only, but I don't want to be high. I want to like engage in a social experiment or
See,
experience.
You know that's funny because when it comes to smoking, if I smoke weed, then I kind of like get introverted, and then it's real difficult for me to be interactive with folks.
Sure.
But if I eat an edible, and the other thing is I can't do that and be inside. I have to be outside. I
An
got to be
edible.
outside. Anything.
Like literally outdoors.
I got to be outdoors doing
Gotcha.
shit.
Okay.
I got to be riding the mountain bike. I got to be riding the bike,
So
riding the motorcycle.
it's an
doing
active
something.
vibe for you.
It's an
as well.
active vibe for me. I cannot do that and just hang around inside close quarters because it's like, dude, I got to be free. I got to get out. You know, I got to do some shit. I can't just because then I start thinking about shit. I start getting like, dude, my house is messy.
That's like so many people I know.
Oh yeah, dude, it's like, man, I got to get in the gym. I got to start eating better.
Wow.
I got to start working harder.
So it's almost, it engages like a paranoia for
Mhm.
you. You start, because I hear that from like guys like Rogan even.
Yeah.
You know, like he doesn't smoke weed recreationally. He smokes weed socially, but not recreationally.
Right.
And he talks about that. And dude, I signed up for some jujitsu a while back, and you know we've talked about this a
Yeah.
lot. Like
Yeah.
you're a wrestler.
Right.
I wasn't officially a wrestler, but I wrestled with my high school team because I was good at it.
Right.
I just wasn't gonna wear that fucking leotard. It wasn't happening.
It's called the singlet.
I was too skinny to wear that fucking thing. I looked ridiculous. It didn't matter how good I was at that sport. I wasn't doing it, right? So we both have a background into this. I joined jiu-jitsu, and I'm pretty good at it for a beginner.
Right.
It's exactly what Joe Rogan said. 75% of that class was stoned out of their fucking
Oh,
minds.
dude.
Because when you're rolling around with somebody and you have that tiny little bit of paranoia behind
Yeah.
your fucking
Yeah.
ear, you roll a little bit smarter.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
You roll a
That
little
makes-
bit smarter, dude. That paranoia really fucking helps in situations like that, dude.
You know, and it's like, you know, I'm a big motorcycle enthusiast, right?
I did not know that.
You didn't know that?
No.
I thought you fucking knew that.
I want to buy a bike so fucking
Dude,
bad,
I'm a
Chuck.
big dude. I'm.
Are you
big,
going to Sturgis?
You know, I've been to Sturgis. I've done that whole thing, and Sturgis is. It is what it is.
My wife told me I can't go to Sturgis without her for the first time because she wants to see the titties too.
Well, if you go to Sturgis with her, she's probably not going to let you go by yourself because Sturgis
she trusts me, dude. She trusts me. I'm not the first musician she's dated. I'm the first musician she married, but she's been with musicians before. She gets it. She married me and not them for a reason.
I get it.
But she goes, you can't see them titties before I do. Like, because Sturgis is notorious for the titties and ass.
It's crazy. But you know what? There's crazy.
If you're a lesbian, go to Sturgis.
I guess. I don't know. Is that their new tagline? Hey, Sturgis. If you're a lesbian.
No, I'm saying, like, if you're a lesbian and you're into fucking all the hot chicks, go to Sturgis because all of them are there. Like, from the pretty, like, preppy chicks that look like they just got done cheerleading 4 hours beforehand.
They're all over out
to the, like, badass biker chicks with piercing. All the most beautiful women are in Sturgis during that biker fest.
That's a huge. I mean, how many people?
The only reason I know this is because I have so many friends that play it and work it.
Oh yeah, I suppose.
In the music
industry.
industry.
The music deal.
So the pictures I see.
Oh,
I looked at
crazy.
Kate. I was like, Kate, when we get that stimulus check, I think we should buy a couple motorcycles and go to Sturgis.
You should buy a bike, man.
I want to so bad.
Dude, you got it. My buddy, he owns Empire Cycle, right? The guy knows every fucking thing about motorcycles you would ever want to know. Talk to him before you buy a bike.
Free plug for Empire Cycle.
Empire Cycle, Loretto, Minnesota.
Not sponsoring the podcast. Free advertising.
You know what? You got to have him on here. Though. He's got cool shit, cool stories. He knows. He rebuilt my Harley. I have a Street Glide 2000.
I'll have him on. If he likes the podcast, maybe I can convince him to sponsor it and give me a free bike, even if it's a little side beater.
I don't know if you get a free bike. You might get a free Empire T-shirt.
Maybe a free tune-up.
It might free tune-up or free bike. But you know
what? Free bike. That's my negotiating price.
Good luck. Let me know how that turns out.
You know, in negotiating, you're supposed to start with a lot of outlandish shit and then end at your realistic.
It gives you room to
I'm
negotiate.
Starting and ending at free bike. The definition of free bike can change. I'm gonna end up with a bicycle.
When he shows up with the Schwinn, you have a Schwinn with the old banana seat.
Dude, ride it to Sturgis, bro. You know 10 speed, just busting your fucking ass down fucking 94 West.
Dude, you're gonna take Highway 12 out there.
Oh yeah, you don't take 94.
No.
That 94 goes up to North Dakota.
Right.
My bad.
He'll get you the one with the banana seat, but he'll unhook the front and tilt it up so you feel like you're riding the chopper.
Yep.
You know, he'll hook you up.
Or it'll go straight up my asshole.
Yeah, exactly.
Or every bump on the road. Ooh.
Teach his own.
Ooh.
Teach his own. If that's what you're into, God bless you, man. But I did. You know what I have noticed is because I love to ride. But when I eat an edible and I'm riding, it's almost like people think that you're, and maybe it's just me convincing myself. Okay, and I get that.
It's definitely that, but
I know it is.
Keep going.
I'm sure it is, but like I feel like I ride much smoother. I feel like things are click. You know, you handle corners better. You do everything.
Sure.
Because you have this like. You get rid of that little anxiety that you have.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So I feel more comfortable.
Helps you be
it.
more present.
Yeah, more present because you're kind of living in the now. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, and plus.
I hear the same thing in the jiu-jitsu thing I was talking about earlier.
That's what I'm saying.
I hear
it's the same thing. It's like, man, I feel like I ride better.
Yep.
You know, so, and it makes the experience better.
Well, listen, dude, we've been doing 2 hours. Let's start wrapping this up.
Yeah, let's do it.
We've been talking about all kinds of random shit. Do you have any words of wisdom for the listeners?
You know, I don't know if
you've got. Here's the thing, man. Is like, let's recap real quick. So again, I wanted to have you on because not only did I work for you, not only are you successful in what you do, but a lot of it's where you came from. So you were a straight up farm boy in Iowa.
Grew up in Iowa, yeah.
You went to college.
Yeah.
And if I remember right, you dropped out.
Dropped out of college. Yeah.
Why did you drop out?
Money.
You just couldn't afford to keep going.
Couldn't go. So, you know, and here was the deal. And when my ex-wife, my girlfriend at the time, graduated, and it was time to get like real world shit, right? Get a job. She's a year older than I am. And I moved to New Mexico and got a job at a collection agency. And so we moved out. Yeah.
You've never told me this.
Did
before.
I tell you this?
No, dude. I have like 8 years experience in collections.
I know,
right?
Never once. I never mentioned that.
Not once.
Yeah. So
the fuck,
dude. So I went down there.
The fuck.
And I worked there for like a week. I worked there for like a week, and I was like, dude, I fucking hate this. I can't do it anymore.
Of course.
And my buddy was moved up here, who's my roommate in college, and he lived up in Minneapolis. And he says, look, he said, I work for a company. I'm a gold broker. There's tons of money in it. He goes, I know you want to go back to college. So I'm like, fuck it. We're leaving New Mexico, came right up to Minneapolis. Right?
So from Iowa to New Mexico all the way to Minneapolis.
To Minneapolis. That was my journey, right? So I moved to Minneapolis and went and interviewed with the guy at the gold broker, and he was such a fucking tool. I mean, this guy was a douchebag. I was like, there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way I can work for this guy.
I've been in a few of those interviews.
You know the deal, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going, my God, my buddy took a job with this guy. So I went from that, and I sold cars at a dealership in Brooklyn Park. And the guy I talked about, I don't know if we talked about this earlier before.
I think we did. Yeah. Best
Maybe
car salesman of all
best
time.
car salesman. Fucking guy was incredible. And so I took this job selling cars, and I was like, I'm just going to make some money, go back to college, finish up my degree. And then I wanted to go to PT school. I want to go to physical therapy school. And so I started doing this, and I'm like, oh man, I hate fucking selling cars. It sucks. You know, you work all these weird hours and all this other bullshit. And, so I saw this ad in the paper, and this back in the day, right? Where you still search for jobs in the paper, right?
I'm still old enough to have experienced.
So you've experienced that. A lot of people have it.
Fucking rough deal,
dude. It is, and you go through and you're circling all these things.
We're highlighting them.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I could do this. I could do this.
Yep.
So I went to work at this company. We sold hunting and fishing videos, right? I grew up in Iowa, dude. I hunted and fished, and I mean that was my thing, right? So I'm like, fuck, that's my wheelhouse. I can do that. So I went and did that job, sold to like Walmart, to Gander Mountain, sold to like big box stores. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. I'm learning some shit. You know, it's great. I went from there, did a couple other deals, sold sandpaper over the phone. Then I sold beds at Select Comfort over the phone. But my boss at the video place called me up one day and he says, look, I started this credit card processing company. I'm like, dude, I don't know shit about that. And I said, I'm getting ready to go back to college. I've saved a little money. Going back to college, going to finish my degree. He goes, you know what? Come work for me. When you leaving, kind of deal. And he goes, come work for me for the 6 months before you leave. Started working from him and figured out the deal. I kind of got knitted in the deal. Started making way more money than all my buddies were that were graduating. And then it got to a point where I said, look, let me buy into the company. You know, I want ownership stake.
I thought he offered you something.
No, he knew.
I thought he approached you. Because we're talking about John. This is where we met, is at this company.
Yeah, this company. And he goes, look, the company needs money to expand, right? Got to expand. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, here's the deal. Let me buy into the company then. I'll forego whatever commissions that I'm making. You know, I need to make X amount to survive. I'll forego those commissions. Let me get ownership stake in the company. And he allowed me to do that, and you know, I think I paid $50,000 for my stake in the company at the time, and it's worth.
That's like, dude. That's like, oh my God, that's like investing $500 in Amazon at the beginning.
Dude, that was the best investment ever made.
For real,
it was the best investment.
For real, dude.
It's worth millions of dollars today, and I'm thankful. And I was there during it, and I hope. You know, I think I contributed, obviously, or I wouldn't be there still. So, and did that, and then did that for about, I don't know, I've done that for 25 years. And, you know, I branched out about, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, started getting into real estate, and then, you know, started doing that shit.
And that's right around when we met.
That's around when we met. Yeah. So that's my journey, man. You
just started your fucking, and that's why, to me, that's, now that's the brief version. That's the bullet point. Let me give you some fucking Wikipedia headlines.
Yeah, that was it.
But that story in detail, you're gonna be on again, so people will hear versions of this in slow details over time. Chuck will be back on, but it's important to me because Chuck never had anything handed to him.
No,
and there's just this similar work ethic between certain people that I find highly inspiring, and it's different. It's different when we're talking about guys like The Rock that were genetically gifted from birth and, you know, played at the University of Miami and made it to the NFL but didn't succeed. And then here's the thing is he's like, and then I joined the WWE. Well, dude, that wasn't by chance either because your fucking cousin was a WWE legend. Like and I'm not saying he didn't earn it either, but
No.
there was like doors already open for him along the way.
Of course.
Whereas guys like you and me and Anwar, and there's a lot of other friends. I'm just mentioning Anwar and over again because the viewers know him because he
Right.
was on the podcast.
Right. Yep.
These are guys that had nothing fucking handed to us. We grew up dirt fucking poor in the worst possible scenarios, and we just refused to die.
Right.
Even as
Yeah.
kids, we had this mindset, whether we were playing sports, we refused to die. And
And is
that's a
that-
mindset that you need to get yourself into, guys. If you're in a spot right now, man, like this is not the theme of the podcast. This is not a motivational podcast. This is not where I'm going to have a life coach on every week
Right.
and teach you how to fix your fucking problems. This is a theme right now because of we're all going through this. Chuck is going through this with COVID. Half of his businesses aren't doing as well as they would have been 2 years ago. He's in real estate. Yeah, he owns rental properties, sure, but his renters don't have jobs, so they're not paying their rent. Chuck's in credit card processing, so yeah, he gets that nickel every time you swipe your card. But guess what, motherfuckers? People are swiping less fucking cards because they
Right.
got less fucking money, right? I lost my job, so what did I do? I pivoted. I decided to put it all into the podcast. Fucking army. Anwar gets out of the army. He decides to get fucking focused on. You gotta be resourceful. You have to decide you're not gonna die.
Right.
Because adopting and embracing is really the important part. This victimhood mentality. I could have done it. Anybody could have done it. I have every right to do it.
Sure, anybody can do that.
I got my job taken from me, not by an immigrant, not by some fucking president's fucking crazy policies. No, because a goddamn disease showed up 4,500 miles away from us, shut down the goddamn world.
Yeah.
I was technically essential, but every business around me couldn't buy shit from my business, so I still got
you're-
laid off.
So you're furloughed. And
I
that's
have
the
every
thing.
excuse to complain. I have every excuse to put my hands up, but I didn't because I realize I'm not going to allow my mayor, my governor, my president, a former employer,
Mhm.
nobody is going to dictate my fate. I am the master
Well,
of my
that's-
own fate.
You know what? You can sit and shiver, or you can get up and do some shit.
That's a great way to end it, dude. Let's
So-
wrap it up right there, dude.
Sounds good.
All right, man. Let's do
Thanks,
this
man.
again. Did you have fun?
Absolutely. I had a great time.
Are
Thanks,
you-
man, for having me.
Are you as nervous as you were when you started?
No, hopefully that, I don't know. I mean,
It went great. I guarantee people are going to like this one. People will call me or text me or put on
All
the
right,
thing.
cool.
They're going to want you to come back on, dude. We're going to do
All
this
right.
again soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks, guys. If you like the content, if you found value, like, subscribe, punch that fucking bell button so you know when the next one comes up, guys. Thank you. Have a good fucking night.
Thanks, man.